are so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horse is kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. You'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight.
Howdy there, I'm Matt McKinley and we're burning daylight.
In the saddle till the job's done right.
Welcome to Burnin' Daylight, the only podcast for the working cowboy. All right. Well, we're here with returning guest Jen Hill, recently relocated to Nebraska, and Zach Sargent. You still up in northern Colorado?
Yes, sir. Greene.
Right on. And yeah, we've been visiting for a few minutes and talking shop, but we wanted to sit down and discuss some of the things between the main driver of the whole ag industry is you have your crop and you have your labor. And it's there's no more labor intensive industry than agriculture, and cattle industry kind of tends to be the most cantankerous, I would think. They're the farmers will bitch about everything, but they can always agree, and there's far less nuance in a tractor as opposed to cattle and horses, and then the people that work cattle and horses tend to be on a on a completely different wavelength than most of society as well. So there's I think we've all seen good outfits, we've all seen bad outfits, and we've all seen some really excellent employees or bosses, and we've seen just like for as majestic as the Cowboys made out to be, I've known some real pieces of shit that cowboy for a living. and I mean I will say they're fairly rare, like just like the true pieces of shit, but they're out there, and some of those guys can be pretty goddamn good hands too. But it's so I don't know. It's a weird type of subsector of life that we live, and I guess Jen, you want to kind of lead it off and talk about you guys' operation, and then kind of what you guys look for. And
yeah, so we have tried just about everything over all the years. We've primarily looked for a general all-around ranch hand, and that means that it's got to be somebody who's not only willing to sit in a saddle. Sometimes you got to pick up a pair of fencing pliers and fix fence. Sometimes you got to work in the corral. Like there are other aspects to being a cowboy. And so we've done all of it. We've hired based off of, ads in local newspapers. We've run the Facebook ads, joined the groups, the Ranch World ads. And then last year we wound up breaking down and entering into the H2A program.
Who froze on? Did I freeze?
One job, I think, off of Ranch World ads, and it wasn't my type of ranch, and that's okay. What you're facing, I think, isn't a unique struggle. Even when we look for guys, I mean, we have trouble. Good help is hard to come by, and when you find it, you need to pay it as well as you can. I mean, obviously, you can't break into the poorhouse trying to be good to your help. But I always tell people, it's really tough in which my perspective is going to be skewed. I'm in a high-risk feed yard now, but previous to that, I pretty much stuck to large ranching operations. that's what I wanted to do. I had a lot of money wrapped up in tack, and I grew up on large ranches in the panhandle of Texas. So I wanted to be horseback. I wanted my legs swinging, and I was usually pretty vocal with people that, if you're looking for a fencer or a hay farmer or something, I'm not your guy. And you don't want me to be your guy, because if you put me on hay equipment, I will put you in the poorhouse quickly. I'm horrible with equipment. But I think, I really think if I'm trying to really examine what I say, because everything is so misconstrued nowadays. Looking for an all-around hand is going to be tough, because if you're a really good cowboy for a living, and this isn't universal, but if you've spent a lot of time trying to be a really good cowboy for a living and learn the etiquette, learn how to read cattle, and learn to do a good job, there are going to be certain jobs that it's not that you don't necessarily want to do, but you do also maybe feel a little bit like, if I wanted, well, let's just use your example. Y'all are looking for an all-around guy that, you need to, you said run some equipment and, build some fence. I don't think that's out of the realm of what a guy should be expected to do.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to get really specific about what you're wanting. So the odds of you finding a guy who is really qualified horseback, not that it's impossible, but he's going to be harder to draw. He's going to require more money to show up out there, because he's going to tell you, if my legs aren't swinging every day, there's a price for that, but it's a pretty high price. And it's, in my opinion, there's no way around it. I can train a guy to run a feed truck pretty quick. I can train a guy to run a loader. I can train a guy to run a tractor. I can train a guy to weld. I can train a guy to build fence. And I can do all of that in a pretty timely fashion. If you give me 3 months, I'll have a guy to where he's capable of doing that. If you tell me I'm going to give a guy 3 months and he needs to be a good cowboy, there's no way. It's impossible.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
I can't do it. So I think to really get the kind of help people are looking for, you've got to kind of pick a direction. So if you want a maintenance man that you're not really concerned with his cowboying talent, I think that's out there. If you're wanting a really good cowboy to play maintenance man, he's out there, but he's probably going to be pretty pricey for the most part.
Mm.
And and like I said, I don't want to overspeak, because I'm dang sure not speaking for every cowboy out there. A lot of the really good help out there I've worked around, they don't mind building a little fence or something like that. But what they do absolutely prioritize typically is you got to leave them alone. If you hire them to do a job,
that's big.
They take pride in being able to do that. And one reason I'm still where I'm at is they leave me alone. They pretty much turned me loose to take care of these high-risk cattle. They saw that I was capable. Of course, there was a trust period there to figure out if you're an idiot or not. And once I showed that my death loss was, reasonable, and I got my stuff done in a timely manner, they leave me alone and they pay me pretty well. And obviously I won't say how much, but I'm paid pretty well here. It's not a job I love necessarily. I don't always love the labor. I have to do a lot of stuff I would prefer not to. Mm-hmm. But there was a price tag on it, and they found it. And the price tag was, number one, pay me well, and number two, leave me alone and trust me that I'm going to do the absolute best I can for you, and it's going to be a quality product.
See, I'm in the exact same position here, Zach. In the winter, I know that I'm going to be riding Holsteins. I don't like it. Mm-hmm. I don't care for it, but I got a house on 5 acres. I live in one of the most beautiful valleys on the face of the earth. And like I said, I got a really good working relationship with my boss, and he leaves me the hell alone. He's like, hey, this is what we got to get done. And he'll tell me, like, hey, when we're doing this, I'm going to be a little more involved. And I'm like, hey, that's fine. That's fine. And then once we get through that little micromanagement period that at the beginning of like a new bunch of cattle or something, we get through the wave. And I'm usually a guy like kind of holding him back. Like he's wanting to mass treat everything. I was like, hey, come on. I'll just like ease up. Mm-hmm. Let me do my job. Because guess what? I'm the one doing it. Like
sure.
The mass treatment is going to help me more than it's going to help you. Like it's going to help. It's going to help my sanity more than it's going to help your numbers. It's
sure.
And so, but you're paying me for a reason. I'm just like, hey, I'll tell you if we need a mass, I'll let you know. But let's make them prove it. You know, there's a lot of cattle that like you got to make them prove it that they really need the whole pen needs sick,
Sure.
or otherwise you're gonna cause more problems down the line. But that comes with experience, and like you were saying, you're not gonna. There's no way you can teach that to a guy in 90 days because like he's only seen one season in 90 days,
Sure.
and you need to see like multiple years of every season having a rough winter, having a dry winter, having and experiencing that and knowing how your cattle's going to react, knowing how to take care of your horses as well, and but like you said, there's a lot of other stuff that I got to do as well. Run some equipment here and there, but I've made it known that like, hey, you're paying me as a as the cow boss, so that's what I'm gonna focus on. Like the cattle come first. If I gotta go weld up a rail or something later on, that's fine. But I'm not gonna let the cattle suffer to go do some
Sure.
welding.
Sure.
And but also I know guys that like you're saying they're decent enough cowboys, and that's really I think that's kind of the ideal for like a family operation is a guy that's a decent enough cowboy, but also likes to weld and do shit like that, because
Yep.
those guys aren't quite as independent minded as say me and you, and they don't mind stepping
Real
off
labor.
a horse. Yeah,
Sure.
and maybe we're just a little bit lazy, Zach. I don't know if that's if when it comes down to it. It's we get a little sophisticated with our laziness, though.
Well, I'll tell you, it gets bad enough that when we had the H2A worker this last summer, and he asked us through Google Translate, of course, for a pair of fencing pliers to have in his saddlebag so that as he was finding fence that was down, he could repair it. You could have knocked me over with a damn feather. I had never had a cowboy ask for a pair of fencing pliers before. It was like, well, I don't know. Look around while you're up there on the fence. I'm sure there's 30 pair of them thrown in the ground up there from the last ones we've given out. So there's got to be some give and take. While you're out riding, I get that riding is your job, but sometimes you just got to put the damn fence back up.
Well, no, there's that too, but
and and I hate to jump in here, Matt. I'm not going to interrupt you too much. I'll also say, I've had camps on very large ranches. Had to maintain them. I mean, you fix the fences. I mean, you just do. It's your country, and you're expected to tend to that country. I really don't want you having a sour. And I in your position, I would probably have a sour opinion on cowboys if that was what you were running into.
Yeah.
It's the same reason, to be honest, and I don't mean this offensively. I mean, this is just, I've got a pretty sour opinion of a lot of ranch owners. And like I said, my experience has been definitely more tailor-made towards large corporate type ranches. They haven't been family operation. And it's usually, it's really hard to get over some of that bias. But I would preface that with, I think you just from that alone, what you just said, they wouldn't even get off and patch up the fence. I would say it sounds to me like you definitely ran into a bad health problem. I don't think you've run into a cowboy problem. I think you run into a bad health problem, and those are two. And once again, I worked for a guy who owned cattle and ran and hired cowboys, and he hated horses, cowboys, and dogs. Not in that specific order either, but he hated them. And he constantly told me, you can't get cowboys to do anything. And shoot, we rebuilt probably, 25 miles of new barbed wire fence. We improved the herd. That herd hadn't been cold on in years. We improved the country, got really serious about grass management, controlled burns. And I think in a way he realized what he was running into was not a cowboy problem. He was running into a bad health problem.
Yeah.
And also in the same note, I don't blame all ranch owners. I don't think they're all incompetent. There's no way around it. Some of the ones I work for, they've got a revolving door of help. And then, if you ask them, well, by God, cowboys don't stay. And it's like, well, not here. They said it's not here anyway. Sorry to jump in. That was, I do feel for you, but I don't want you to get too soured on Cowboys because I don't think it was necessarily a Cowboy problem.
I couldn't agree more. And, yeah, that was about as well put as I could have done it. As that well said. I have zero tolerance for just laziness like that. Like I don't know how many times I've yelled at my guys because I can hear them on the phone calling maintenance about a water tank, and I was like, did you check the fucking float? Step off and check the goddamn float. Don't make the guy who's welding up an H-brace over here shut down what he's doing, roll his cords up, and come over here so he can lift the float up because it got stuck on the bottom of the tank. Jesus Christ, man! Like and that's almost verbatim what I've said to several guys, and like, yeah, I don't abide by that. Like, if I'm not a horseback, then if it ain't a horseback, then I don't want it. No, there's a lot of stuff I think is better done a horseback. I think sorting cattle's better done a horseback. I think loading trucks is better done a horseback. Just about anything cattle related, I truly believe is better done a horseback. But a part of taking care of your cattle is keeping your fences up. I've
just take care of your country in general. I've
used
part of the deal.
Yeah, I've used my own hobbles several times to put up a rail until somebody could get over there with a welder. I expect that out of my guys too. Like, I'm not necessarily use your own hobbles, but figure something out to tie up a fence. Or if you're out in open country, yeah, fix the damn fence. That's part of your job.
I tell people that 2 out of 10 of pigeon strings I cut is for tying down cattle, and the other 8 are for tying up gates for the most part. That's just how it is,
Yep. Yeah, same way. I'm
Yeah.
the same way. Like, I just don't. I very rarely actually tie cattle down. It's I always have something on because it's just to tie a gate up usually.
Sure. And I'm sorry for interjecting there, ma'am. I didn't mean to take up so much of your time. I was just defending my people, as it was.
Okay, so now I'm going to throw my own people under the bus though, and say that the second biggest problem we have keeping cowboys is the women. These guys will come out when they're young and single, and being out on the range sounds real fun, and cowboying is, what they always dreamed about, and then they go and get married, and it all goes to shit real quick because their wife isn't interested in that lifestyle. Every time, like clockwork, get married, you're gone.
Yep.
My wife is from Phoenix, Arizona, and she didn't know cowboys existed. She literally thought once we whipped the Indians, that was it for the cowboy too. She had no idea that we were around. She didn't know anything about the culture. And when I told her what I did, she was pretty confused just because she, it didn't register. At the time, I was on a wagon in northern Arizona, so I was kind of telling her what I did. And in her mind, at first, it sounded very romantic. You think of, because everyone thinks of the ranches with the big red barn with the mountains in the background and the wood post fence, and it's this big, beautiful thing. Well, the first ranch I hauled her to was in Canyon City, Colorado, and we got up there in there's an old 2-bedroom cabin, spider infested, last remodeled sometime previous to the Reagan presidency,
Oh yeah,
and and when and I was used to
back when they made stuff worth a shit.
Well, yeah. And I was, for me, I thought, this is, good enough, man. Like I said, shoot, it's a house. And she was mortified. And mind you, I had just got done living in a bunkhouse with pretty much no windows. And before that, living outside. So my standard of living was incredibly low. And I was pretty satisfied with that low standard of living. There are certain jobs I can't take now. And it's not that I can't. I'm not cussing my wife. She's been awesome. She's followed my lead, and she's trusted me to take care of stuff. But there are certain places that I won't move her. And you're absolutely right. married man has, I mean, the list of stuff he needs to stay somewhere is going to be longer. And, you know, right, wrong, whatever, that I see your point of, you know, you can get a single cowboy and throw them in a range TP a lot of times. They're probably not going to stay around forever, but they don't bitch too much about the living conditions. But as soon as you add a woman into it, well, she's not living in a damn range TP. You know, and I do understand where you're coming from, because there are jobs I can't take because of the living condition.
Well,
so
and
there's the other wrench that gets thrown in with that, right?
Yep.
So now we're down to young single guys.
Mm-hmm.
But the young single guys, they aren't like you when you were younger. These guys have to have cell phone. They have to have Wi-Fi. They can cowboy, but they're not going to do it if they can't get on Snapchat.
Yeah, and I know the type. I know that culture you're referring to, and I always kind of like I said, I grew up on big ranches. I enjoyed the big remote ranches. What I'm seeing from a lot of the younger guys, it's a little strange for me. As a young guy, I couldn't wait to fire out and travel. And the only thing I enjoyed more than starting a new job was quitting my current one. I love getting to go to the next place. I do kind of see what you're saying though, because, and I'm not, old timer in anybody. There's a lot of really, really talented young cowboys out there right now doing it really good. Mm-hmm. But there seems to be a bit of a culture shift where you're getting a lot more home guard type guys. They don't want to leave home. They don't really want to see any country, and kind of their expectations of what a lot of these ranches should be is pretty unrealistic. I mean, if nobody here is dumb. I mean, you're not going to make $1 billion in the cattle market, and the odds of you getting to live in a nice 4-bed, 2-bath house on the outskirts of town while you're punching cows for a living is pretty slim, you know?
Yeah.
And the best I can blame that on maybe is culture. It seems like a lot of the real young guys don't want a cowboy if nobody's looking, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And I wish I had a solution for that, but it's cultural. And a lot of the guys that with the new upswing, I think, in the Yellowstone and some of the stuff that we're starting to see more interest in the cowboy culture, I think you kind of want to beat your chest a little more and say, look at me doing it. And when you lose the opportunity to say, look at me doing it, it loses a lot of that sex appeal. And I'm sympathetic to that, definitely. Trying to get guys to come in and do a job where there's not much glory. It's mostly employment. And I am sympathetic to your cause there. I mean, we run into it too. It's really damn tough.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those things where, like, I feel like me and you, Zach, we kind of came up in like the golden age of cowboying. Like we're like, there's just enough of those old timers to like keep us rooted in the past, but with the advent of social media, like there's been such an intermingling of different styles of cowboying, and like you see more hybrid styles than ever before. I mean, there's I don't know how many guys you'll see with a swell fork saddle wrapped in mule hide, and or how many wade trees with a grazer type bit hanging from their horse's mouth.
Yeah, I see guys wearing flat hats that have a horn on.
Yeah.
And not that that's bad or anything, but it's definitely an indicator of kind of how much exposure guys are getting now, because I grew up
and a willingness to learn too.
Yep. And I grew up there in the Texas Panhandle, and when you talked about dallying, I was like, yeah, I've seen some team ropers and stuff do it, and the occasional guy, I heard of a guy doing it dragging calves or something like that, but you just didn't see it. You tied off. And as far as dallying on slick, I've been like, what? I mean, I've
same
seen
here.
a lot of slick horns because they have a horn knot on them, but I had no idea what you'd have been talking about. If you just said, I dally on slick, I'd be like, did your rubber burn off? What happened?
Yeah.
It just culturally wasn't something I knew about, and was completely foreign to me until I got up north. And even like a buckaroo, of course you see the Buck Brandemans and stuff who were kind of the big name guys, the Ray Hunts, but I had no idea what, a buckaroo really was, or what they did, or where they were. And I knew they were somewhere north Arizona, but that was about the extent of it,
Yeah. Well, and now like I'm seeing a lot of these younger guys on like Instagram and like TikTok getting more into like the old style, like where they're just like, nope, it's tie hard or nothing, or it's just like where they're like setting that hard boundary where it's it's
Sure.
puncher versus buckaroo again, and like I thought we were kind of over that, like I because it
Well,
seemed like
man,
there was not maybe not completely over it, but like it seemed like that was almost a thing of the past, and now it's like the
yeah.
younger crowd bringing it back.
I don't think it'll ever go away because
I don't think so either.
I hate to deviate from the topic, but in Trails Plowed Under, which I don't know if you've ever read or not, really good book. But even they talk about kind of there was the buckaroo, and they kind of made fun of him for looking at his shadow and that kind of stuff, and the rest of them were just dirty cow punchers, and by God, they worked hard or whatever, but it's been a debate since we figured out how to swing a leg over a horse and go catch it. And I doubt in my lifetime it'll end.
I don't
really
think so either. But but I think it's like it seems like the younger crowd's kind of making it more of a, I don't know, people like people like team sports, I guess, and that
I get exactly what you mean. I'm leaning, I grew up tied off country, and I went and saw the guys dallying on slick up north. I'll dally on slick horn a lot. I'll dally on rubber, and I tie off a lot. For the most part, if somebody starts telling me how to rope, doing it well is my best way, in my opinion, the best way you can do it. I don't give a shit what I rope with 60-foot guys all the time, and I'll be tied off, and we don't care. Nobody mentions it. We all work for a living. You know what I mean? It would be like if you were a trucker. I mean, whether you drive a Kenworth or a Peterbilt, you might tease each other, but just get down the road. It's just the way of doing your job.
I had this deal drawn for me, and it's a puncher tied hard with a buckaroo coming in to catch heels, and I just when it comes to cows, and like we'll get back to the ranch topic here with as cowboys we like to bloviate on things. Philosophizing is the most underrated part of cowboying. Like people don't mention it enough, but philosophizing's a huge part of the cowboy. And
major part. Yeah. The rope if you're a good philosopher.
Yeah. But I think you'll I think the more you see on social media, because there's just some things like you can do like tied off, like when you see something get just jerked down pretty as you want, like that you can't do that when you're roping with 60 foot. I mean, kinda, but not really.
Right.
But like when you see a guy just take a rap on a slick horn and just got smoke blowing up off the horn, and then take one more rap and stretch that kef out right at the fire, like that you can't do that when you're tied off either. And it's just
you're right.
And I think when the more people see of that, like, because the first time I saw somebody burning hide on a slick horn, I was like, well, that's pretty fucking cool. I want to learn how to do that. And and I was a dally on rubber, tie hard type of guy. And now I haven't tied hard in forever. I haven't had rubber on my horn in 3-4 years, something like that. And but it was seeing a video or something like that, and I was like, well, that's pretty fucking cool. I don't know. There's just there's different things about different styles of cowboying that you're not going to get from another style, and they're all just really fucking cool. And when you can capture it, like as cheap as a GoPro is nowadays. I was I was telling somebody, like, you can buy a GoPro for $250 and take like a excellent quality video.
Sure.
And you get to like people get to share that shit out, and it's that's one of the that's one thing I think it's going to keep our our culture relevant is but that's going to take a cocky young fella to go out and rope some shit too to make those videos. So anyhow, Jen, your thoughts.
Okay, so I actually have a question for Zach.
Yes.
We know that in the hired hand world, wages tend not to be super awesome. So what kinds of fringe benefits, non-wage benefits can ranchers offer that guys are looking for? I mean, meat is kind of the standard, but what else is out there that you've seen that is good, that works?
Well, believe it or not, and I know if you have fuel tanks, telling guys a tank of fuel a month, you get a tank of fuel a month. That doesn't sound like much, but if you're living
That's
on
like
those
gold right now. Are you kidding?
and exactly, and also, but if you live on those remote ranches, and it's like, look, I don't mind living out here, but it's an hour and a half just for me to go to the grocery store and back. For me, on a couple of ranches I worked on, they'd say, we'll give you a tank of fuel a month to get to town, and that was big. And I know it doesn't sound that big, but I mean, you got to think that's a full right. Like right now, like you said, that's worth gold. That's big, and if you can get guys worked into a profit share program of some sort, or even just, let's say, we'll give you a heifer calf a year.
Yeah.
And we'll run her up to, let's say, we're going to cap you at 10 head, but we'll give you a heifer calf a year and we'll provide the bull. That's a hell of a lot of incentive for a guy to want to stick around. And it's also a good incentive for a guy to get through his shit, because if his stuff is running with your stuff, he's going to be worried about his stuff too. And he's going to be worried about whether that fence is up or not. The best way I can tell people to keep help around, cowboys aren't necessarily team players. We're all a little bit selfish. And that's just how it is. But if you can work them into the fold without breaking yourself, but give them a reason to want to stay. Because if you're offering beef $2,000 a month in a house, you and every other ranch out there, that used to be a running joke with me and a buddy. And if he'd piss a boss off, he'd say, "Hell, I'll find somebody else to pay me $1,800 a month." I mean, it's not hard. So you have got to set yourself you need to have a high standard for your help, and you have to have a reason to set that standard. So if you say, look, we're offering you a heifer calf a year, tank of gas a month, house, pay, beef, benefits, that's going to go a long way for drawing in good help. A long way.
And if you promise something, like, hold up to that promise. Like, that's one of the things that like kind of soured me on Cactus is, like, we're gonna promote from within.
Yep.
And here I am 3 years later, doing the cattle manager job, but I'm not drawing cattle manager wages. Like, what the fuck, man? And And it's like that riding for the brand thing, that wasn't invented by a cowboy. That was invented by a rancher. and
absolutely.
I have no problem riding for the brand if the brand's worth riding for.
I'm completely with you. And
that's long and short of it. If the brand's worth riding for, I'll ride for it.
For me, it's always been if I really believe. I've had several bosses that left, and whenever they quit, I follow them out because they were so good to me. The ranch, no offense, the ranch, I was like, it's a ranch. They don't even, if the owner showed up today, he couldn't point me out of a lineup. But I would go through hell and back for that manager, and I mean, as long as he's staying, I'll stick around. Building loyalty is big. And also a little piece of advice that I'm going to give. A single guy's never going to stay. If a guy wants to cowboy and stuff and he's single, he's just not. You might get him for a year.
Yep.
But he's going to hunt greener pasture somewhere. He's going to miss his friends, or he's going to do what every young guy does and say, by God, I can day work and ride colts and nobody will ever boss me again, and they'll starve. But, that they don't know that. They think it's going to work. Married men are going to stay around if you give them something to stay for. And if you're looking for that good hand, you already discussed it, the wife. If you can't keep the wife happy, they're not going to stay, but that can come as cheap as a good house. And I'm not talking about a mansion, but something that's painted, clean, and has a toilet that's not yellow and a shower that runs. Something that they're not just flat embarrassed to be in.
Doesn't smell like mouse shit.
That's it. That you don't have to close off a room because the floor caved in, which actually happened to me and my wife. I wish I could give some better advice, because the truth is cowboys are contrary as hell. They're opinionated. We're all pretty sure we're smarter than the next guy. But there's a lot of really good help out there who are really invested in doing a good job for you. And they're not looking to make $6,000 a month. They're looking for you to trust them, involve them. And if I were you and you find good help, have a lot of discussions with them about what they're needing. They're not going to come and tell it to you normally. And if they do, they're mad. And I'm speaking from experience. You know what I mean? If by the time they get to the point to where they bring it up to you, they're usually pissed off. Don't be scared to ask them, is everything okay? Pickup's running decent. And then he might say, no, the damn heater's been out of it for 3 months. And you're like, well, okay, let's get that fixed. We didn't know that. Or, no, the plumbing in my house busted and I'm still waiting on someone to fix it. And it's like, well, we didn't know that. And guys will quit over that. But if you're just willing to ask them, what do you need? Everything okay? You got what you need to get your job done? You would be shocked how far that goes for the average working cowboy to realize, I've got stuff to do and they're going to give me what I need to get it done.
Yeah.
At least for me and the circle I run with, just knowing you are involved, because especially the old time ranchers, their motto was, I want it to be good and I want it to be free. And, which is just, that, as we all well know, that's an impossible standard. Nobody wants to get rich doing this, but they do want, they want to feel like you give a shit about them. And y'all may have already done everything I've listed. Y'all may have already tried it. And in that case, I guess we would have to go a little bit deeper and kind of say, well, what's the day-to-day on the ranch look like? What are you asking your guys to do day to day? And I don't know. I don't know enough about your ranch to give any set in stone advice, I guess, is the thing either.
So then my next question is, where should ranchers look for guys like you? Because I can tell you the last time we went with like the Hired Hands Facebook page, I got back a response from a kid who told me he just wanted to smoke pot, drink beer, and slap some leather. How about a hire? He was 18, so like 2 of those 3 things weren't even legal for him. And then I had Trixie from Wyoming, whose son was getting out of the federal pen next month and was going to be real strong. And how about a hire? Didn't know anything about horses, but she was sure he was going to be real strong, all that time lifting weights.
Yeah, he should have been.
So clearly that wasn't the right place to look. Where should people be looking?
Well, almost everybody I know that has hired good help, either a good local guy that you're in good with and they want to come, or they come to you. And and that good help shows up to good places typically.
Yeah.
It's hard for the mom and pops though that are only running 1 or 2 hired hands.
Absolutely. It's a lot harder for you guys. And if I was going to say where to look, always look local if you can. That's not always true. There's guys, that are coming from everywhere in the U.S. that are good help and will make you a hand. But I would always advise people start local, because those guys normally have roots in the area. They don't want to fire out and leave if they're married, that they may have kids in school or something like that. So start local. I don't know if y'all use any day work or anything like that. A lot of times, if you have a day worker who's kind of your go-to guy, try to work a deal with him. Whether that's, if you still want a day work, and, we'll work something out to where you can go and help the neighbors and that sort of stuff, as long as your priorities are here. And I know people start thinking, by God, that you can't do that. We need him here. And good help's not cheap. And there's no way, and y'all have found that out like we have, trying to hire people like everywhere else. If you can ever get good help, if you'll just try to cater a little bit, man, it eases a lot of headaches. You can't bend over, but bend over and let them give it to you. But, within reason, be willing to work with them.
Well, and you're in the Sandhills now, and there's a lot of really good stand-up cowboys in the Sandhills. Like some excellent hands, and a lot of them listen to this show. That's Corey Seaman, TJ Finster, Kane Boswell. There's a lot of guys I know just through this show. Chaz Johnson. I married him and his wife. They live out there in the Sandhills, and and they're good people, good cowhands, and like Nebraska's got a lot of good cowhands. I
It
know
does.
I know a lot of people think it's just all corn huskers and shit, and it is, but there's some really good cowboys out there. So you
Yeah.
honestly, like, we can put the word out for you, and
But it matters enough that was part of our consideration when we were deciding to sell and walk away from the old place. You know, knowing, okay, well, where we're going, labor is going to be a hell of a lot easier because it matters and it's hard.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, where were you located at previous to the Nebraska move?
Yeah, so we were like extreme northwest Colorado on the Utah line there.
Oh, y'all were okay. Gotcha. So like extreme. I've been up in Walden, North Park. That's about as far northwest as I've been.
Yeah, we were farther west than that.
Yeah, y'all were further west than that. Yeah, that's impressive. So if you don't, could you by any chance kind of tell me what your job description you posted was? I mean, I've never read it. I guess I'm not sure what you were looking for.
Yeah. So, and we, you know, we've only been here where we are now a couple of months, so we haven't even thought about what it might look like here right now. We don't know what kind of labor we're looking at, but before it was always a range rider, you know, someone that was willing to sometimes live in cow camp, sometimes be at base, and just herd. You know, just herd the damn cows.
Man, the range rider deal, in my opinion, is probably the toughest hiring going on right now. Wagons are right next to it. You got to find a special. I tried it, and I tried the range rider deal, and I wasn't a very good range rider. I like isolation and cow camps and stuff, but even that, I mean, it's really hard. You have to really hunt and dig for the right kind of guy.
And the right kind of guy's probably got some sketchy shit in his background too.
And that's
he just wants to slap some leather.
Yeah. And if you want, that's. I'll tell you this, okay, and that is something else that I try to tell people to be open-minded about this. But two of the best cowboys that I've heard of or known of, Gary Edwards, who everyone called Hoodie Bob Edwards. He spent a lot of time in the panhandle of Texas and up in Montana and various places. And the other was Cole Morehouse out of Arizona. And both of those men were alcoholics. They were outlaw SOBs. I mean, Cole Morehouse on one occasion was leaving Seligman, Arizona, where he was pulled over for DWI. Cole has passed on now, but Cole stepped out of his car, beat the hell out of the cop, handcuffed the cop to his car, and airmailed the cop's radio out there. And then Cole drove on into Pike at the Diamond A's. You know, they were really qualified and they were really good, and they absolutely live on the fringes of society. One of the best range riders I know, two of them are Phil and Jill McGinnis. I rode with them in Wyoming. They're great. They may listen to this, and if they do, I'm not bad-mouthing you guys, but you guys both know you're not social butterflies. Phil is, that both of them enjoy isolation. They really aren't. They're not outlawed, but they're not super interested in modern society, but they're good help. And I would say keep an open mind about your qualifications, because we would all love to have the sober, clean-cut guy who wants to make it to Sunday service all the time. But if you're gonna live like that, you've got to be a little off in the head. I mean, I don't mean that badly, but to live and thrive in that environment, you can't be a completely well-rounded person. Same with the wagons. If you're gonna be really good wagon help, you're probably not the most well-rounded individual to ever walk the earth. Hell, I'm not, and I'm pretty well adjusted, and I have holes, I promise.
And the guy that just wants to stay at the ranch, say like for you guys, I don't know what your housing would look like for your help, but I'd assume would be like a place, you know, right there on the ranch. And the guy that wants to stay on the ranch all the time probably has a reason to stay out of town, you know?
Absolutely. There's a ton of truth to that. And so that would be a little piece of advice I might give you, is don't get too close-minded on, Well, and of course, if a kid messages you like, I just want to fucking, smoke weed and slap leather, it's like, calm down, Kemosabe. Like I said, like,
yeah,
calm
you
down.
can.
But here's where the fringes of society lead, because we've gone that route too. And then I've got the sheriff calling, asking if I know where their last known location is, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, shit.
Yeah.
And I will. Was that guy good help?
No, he was crazy as all hell.
Well, crazy and good help can sometimes intermingle. But I understand. Like I said, but it.
No, he was crazy, and he had the wife problem. So there was just
Oh,
yeah, there's a lot going. And so y'all are out of the range rider business now, I assume, with this move to Nebraska. It's a lot easier to find a camp man than it is to find a good range rider. It's a lot easier to find that kind of guy, in my opinion. I'll tell you this too: if a lot of guys, I don't know how your ranch is set up, and I hate to give this kind of advice because nothing's universal. Y'all know that. We know that. A lot of times, if you say we all live at headquarters, you would be shocked how many guys that calls and how many good guys that call. And I know that sounds counterintuitive. You want to keep tabs on kind of what's going on, or you want the easy access to talk to that guy. But a lot of the really good guys that are really good camp men, they want to camp. I mean, they want their own spot. They don't want to have a morning meeting about what they're doing that day. They usually are like, I know
we're all a little bit libertarian, as it just and in the fact, just leave me the fuck alone.
That's it. And it's like, and gosh, I'm really trying to examine what I say because if you say something stupid, I'm gonna get roasted, and I'm trying not to say anything stupid, but you have to find a line there to where if you do find somebody that's good, they're probably going to be independent, and do your absolute damnedest best to nurture that independence. Because my dream employee, if I want to hire a guy, is I don't have to talk to you, period. You know what you're doing. There is no need for me to call you. If you call me, I want to know it's serious. Does that make sense? Like, if you call me, this needs to be a need to have conversation. I don't need to hear from you every day. You don't need to hear from me every day.
I almost
see generational differences with this, because a lot of what you've talked about, the morning meetings and the babysitting and all that kind of shit is stuff that I've seen with a lot of those ranch owners that are 50 years old plus, it's how they used to run it when they were able to get 12 guys living in a bunkhouse, which doesn't exist anymore.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe going to kind of change with our generation, because we're all sick of that shit too.
Yeah, and exactly. And if you hire me to do a job and you call me every day to cover what job needs done, I'm just saying, hire some idiot. You don't need me here, because you're going to call and tell everybody every damn step to make. I don't have a real job. It's like you're basically my babysitter, and I'm your mule. A lot of good help just won't show up for that kind of stuff. And I don't blame them. I'm the same way. I'm not showing up if someone's going to call me every morning.
I almost enjoy it more when we're shorthanded and I get to ride by myself every day. Because guess what? If I typically if we got somebody new coming on, I've got to train them, and that's like just count on getting half done what you want to get done in the day, and that's being optimistic. Getting half done what you want to get done, and then I've got to talk to I got this podcast that I run too, and most of my day, it works because most of my day is spent alone, and I can listen to podcasts, I can read an article when I'm when I'm getting a cup of coffee or something, and I do my research during the day. Well, and it just works where I can I can ride and listen, and I I don't multitask very well, but that's one area where I shine. I can.
Oh yeah. Same.
And I can show numbers to prove it. I'm a good fucking pin rider, regardless if I got my headphones in or not. I'm a damn good pin rider. And so when I got another guy there, it's just it's almost just like, God damn it, I got to talk to people today, and
yeah, and how we split ours up. currently there's 2 lead cowboys, one for the east side, and I'm the lead cowboy on the west side of this yard. And usually, in how they've done it in years past, is everyone pairs up and you ride it like that. I ride alone every day. I've got a good guy that works for me. He's really qualified. He has his section, and I say, I will see you sometime. Like I said,
Yeah.
we'll bump, but good luck. Call me if you have a problem. And I ride alone. I doctor alone. I do go homes alone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because I think I'm superior to everybody. And, you know, by God, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want help. I'll figure it out. You know, I want my biggest goal day to day is how can I get through this with talking to the least amount of people?
Right. Or only talking to the people that I want to talk to. Like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's and so I don't know, and there I know like most of the good hands I know are like I'm very good at talking to people, but I like to talk to people when I want to. And that's why I don't work with people. and but like most of the good hands I know are like that. They're either, even if they're like friendly, outgoing folks, they would rather be alone during the day, and they just like to be left alone. And so like if you can trust that guy is going to get the job done, if he's shown you that he's going to get the job done, leave him the hell alone and let him do it. You know, and then if he fucks up, you know, then you step in, but like until then, just let a guy be.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. If he's getting his stuff done and he does a good job, you know, he's good help. Let him do it. And I mean this in the nicest way possible too. Owners typically are really hard to talk to. You know, I think a lot of times the structure of ranches gets a little chaotic because it just does. But yeah, are y'all going to be a 1-man operation, a 2-man operation? What are y'all thinking on that Nebraska?
We're still figuring it out. We haven't made it through a full growing season yet to know, to be honest.
Sure. You know, I will say if you're really hunting that good guy, there's a couple ways to go about it, I guess. If you're wanting just the average hired hand, that guy's out there. If you're wanting a guy to manage, that's a little different too, you know. And y'all are y'all wanting to be kind of the managers of that bus as well? I assume y'all are wanting to manage day to day. Then you know, in that scenario, I guess I would say, what would you kind of expect your day to day to be of your help? I mean, you know, what would you like to see a cowboy you hire do from the time he wakes up till the time he's done at whatever time you want him done? What would you kind of like that to look like, do you think?
Well, you know, I don't know for us right now, but I think you touch on something that we've probably struggled with communicating that with guys in the past, you know, and being real clear on having that set out for those guys from day one.
Yeah.
And I think that is really vital.
It's, you know, one of the reasons I quit a job is because I told them, and I was young, I was single. So also I had no fear of quitting. Homelessness scared me zero. That was fine. I'd be homeless. I'd figure it out. But I showed up, and at first I loved the job. I was horseback every day, but I made it clear to them when I showed up. I said, you know, I want to be horseback, and I have no interest in any of that other stuff. And well, as it went on, they gave me, you know, well, here's all the fits you need to put up and fix and build and stuff. And I said, you know, hey, I said I didn't want to do that. That's not what I'm here for. You know, you need a different guy for that. And I ended up leaving. And if they would have just been honest about the description, and not even if they were dishonest necessarily, they just didn't include it, but it was enough for me to leave. And I do think kind of putting expectations out there of what you're wanting from a guy can really help narrow down that hiring pool. Also, are y'all a purebred operation, or what are you doing there?
Yeah, so we're cow calf, and we run seed stock as well.
Okay.
So
I'm y'all are gonna tag a lot of stuff at birth, I'm guessing. Are you putting up quite a bit of hay?
Yes.
Putting up quite a bit of hay. Okay. those two things right there, a lot of northern ranches, and I'm up north and I've been on northern ranches now for several years. They're getting a lot tougher to find guys that want to do that. And I don't mean that as an insult, just a lot of guys don't like it. And I do get it too, because you can go to the Southwest where, you don't farm any hay and you don't see your calves until branding time. So that's and not that, guys don't want to do it, but I do notice it seems like a lot of the northern outfits are really starting to, it's hitting them hard, a lot of this labor shortage. Just because I think a lot of it is, if I got a cowboy for a living, and this ranch pays $2,000 a month and I don't have to do that stuff, and this ranch pays $2,300 a month and I have to do that stuff, I'll move south, and it's really tough. That's the problem too, is it's tough. And I don't know what the easy solution is there. I wish I did, because someone would probably pay me to tell them, but I don't know what the solution there is, because it's the needs of your operation.
You're just waiting on your kids to get big. Like,
Well, and I think all that's only going to get worse too, because what we're finding is you can't find the stuff that you would normally hire out contractors for day labor for, completely unrelated to ranch stuff. We're having to take all that on because nobody's working.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to rely on these guys to be able to multitask and do more than one thing a lot heavier than I would have thought in the past.
Yeah. And that's something that everybody's facing. Stuff that you would like to contract out, nobody's showing up for.
Yeah. We're talking like the plumbing went out on your house. Shit, I guess we're going to have to figure out how to fix it ourselves, because there isn't anybody here that's going to do it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, if it helps, that's not unique to just y'all. That is becoming in fact, I used to, when I did just day work and travel around, a lot of time I do carpentry, some light remodel. I had a guy teach me when I was a kid. That's it. For a couple months out of the year, I would go to those remote ranches, and whatever they needed, plumbing, electric, remodels, I would do that to put some money in my pocket so I could, cowboy for 10 months out of the year, just because nobody would show up and do it. And there was a good opportunity there. But then if, whenever you stop doing that and say, no, I'm married, I'm sticking to the full-time deal. Well, now you can't get anybody to do shit. And I'm sympathetic to that part too. It's really tough. In your scenario, let's say I was standing in your shoes. The only way I could think of a good remedy is just basically what we listed. Try to get some guys involved, maybe give them a heifer a year. And if you do get a guy that's worth keeping, give that guy a lot of free reign. And like I said, you can't pay somebody so well they put you in the poorhouse. But as you have experienced, bad help costs a hell of a lot more than good help.
Yep. Yeah, it's well, and us on the cowboy end, there's plenty of us out there that don't give us very good name. So you got to be real selective, and I've been on that end so many times. Those ranch employee jobs, I just had a guy respond to me. Because this guy was like, let me read the post. I'll leave everybody's names out of it, but it's
Okay.
and I was in a trolling mood, so I responded.
Yeah, I was in that mood today.
Yeah, so he said, this guy says, I can leave out the day school gets out the year, and that's the post.
Boom.
That's it.
Love it.
And then
tells me everything I need to know.
In the comments, he says, I am inexperienced. I have rode before in another life, meaning it's been 8 years. My wife is willing to learn as well. This is something my family and myself desires. Okay, you probably should have led off with that.
Sure.
Like lead with that, and then end with, I can leave the day before school gets out. And
how old's this guy? Now I'm very confused. How old's this kid?
43.
He's what?
Oh, so he comments again. This is all in the comments, by the way.
So wait, but what's school? What
Yeah,
if he's 43? Why are we worried about
Yeah.
school now?
I was
Well,
thinking
I'm guessing
18-year-old.
he's either got kids in school or he's a teacher. So he says I can drive about anything, some mechanic skills. I've
Workers.
done hard manual labor since I was 12. I'm 43, still able to work hard. I can weld some. I'm not afraid to learn or work. I've had my own horses. Been a while. I can do carpentry and some concrete flat work, other things too. Okay, once again, probably should have led with that. And so
You know, I do wonder, and I don't mean this as an insult. Every cowboy I know, me included, can do a little bit of plumbing, a little bit of carpentry, a little bit of welding. You can probably drive a skid steer and a tractor and a little bit of a loader. I wonder, and every time people apply for a job, they list that same shit. At some point, I'm like, that is not valuable to me. If you can't, you're not even in the pool. You know what I mean? I was like, you better be able to know how to do some of that shit.
Yeah.
I do. I always see people list that like a qualification. I'm like, man, that's worth like $8 an hour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you can't do anything well, but you can touch stuff like great, perfect. And I don't mean that as an insult to anybody that hit. Well, I kind of do. If you're doing that, anybody listening, stop. Like that's
like it's a waste of everybody's time.
Yes, and
also, I like that just the day before school gets out. How the hell am I supposed to know when that is?
I don't know.
Like,
so
what's your schedule? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know when you get out.
So our good buddy Dakota Robinson replied on there, and he said, well, you should probably list a set of skills that you can do at least. And that's when the guy started commenting with his skills. And and then our other buddy, Bob Mallory, Feedlot Bob, says leaving the day school gets out is his only skill. And so I replied to that and I said, step 1, post randomly with 0 context. Step 2, ? Step 3, profit.
Well, you know, in this SOB defense, somebody out there probably gonna hire him. But like
maybe. And so like this other guy commented on this post and he said, can't knock his honesty or desire, somebody give him a job. And I said, this post hasn't earned a day gig, let alone a job. You give him one for his honesty. You go ahead. I'm not willing to give this guy anything based off of that post.
No.
You know?
And you know, I'll also say this, and people think I'm funny when I say this. And if someone ever tells me like I work hard, I am a hard worker. I always equate it to this. Okay. Let's say I give you a job and the only job is I need you to go hang up boards on wood fence. Not that that's not something we do, but let's say it's a job I give you.
Yeah.
And I walk up and you're using a screwdriver to hammer in wood screws. I could say you're a hardworking son of a bitch, right? But you're not productive. Whenever I hear people like, I'm a hard worker, from a hiring perspective, I'm like, man, that's great. That's awesome. If you can get everything I expect of you done in 2 hours, that is worth so much more to me than somebody who's going to work their ass off and not get anything done. Right. There's like this misunderstanding on places now, and I see it a lot, people looking for jobs of, you know, well, I'm not scared to work hard. And it's like, I don't mean this bad. If I hired a guy who was about 1/8 lazy and he got all of his crap done early because he wanted to be done, I would rather take that guy because he's productive. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not looking for, I mean, I can find somebody that wants to sweat for a living. That's fine. I can find him a lot of times. He won't come with a skill set a lot of times. I don't mean that as an insult. People should work hard. But if you want anybody that is on here looking for a job, you need to learn to be productive. You don't need to, working hard is great. And that's a given. You got to learn how to be productive with your time. You can sweat and work and eat and not go to bed, but if you don't accomplish much in that time, that's worth almost nothing to me. It's just not.
Yeah. Like there's what's his name? Paul Engler that started Cactus Feeders. He's
Yep. Sparking
one of
Pauling,
his
but,
one
yeah.
of his favorite or like his most famous quotes was like or people will talk about how he just he would show up at the feedlot office and I'd be like waiting for a meeting or something and he'd just like pick up a broom and start sweeping. And and like and it was always meant to like, you know, point out there's always something to do. But like people took that far too literally where they just would literally pick up a broom.
You just do shit.
Yeah, and you're just like, okay, you've swept that floor 6 times. Like, what good did you actually do? But you were busy, goddammit.
Yeah, well, and I've got a good buddy who quit a place, and he runs the east side of the feed yard now. C.J. Jenkins, he's a good hand and good guy, but he left the ranch, and they had just hired some gunzel who couldn't cowboy, didn't know how to rope, saddle a horse. Said he did, I guess, but lied. But for this kid to keep his job, he would sweep the shop, CJ said, literally 4 or 5 times a day. You'd look up, he'd be sweeping the shop. And in that guy's mind, by God, I am a working son of a bitch. And if you have a brain cell, you're like, yeah, you're worthless. You know, I can hire a 12-year-old kid to do what you're doing and give him, $10 a day and he'll be just enthralled. Like, that's not productive.
Yeah.
And so I obviously we deviated from subject here, but that is a beef of mine. I see when people post, I can do a little bit of welding, a little bit of carpentry, a little bit of plumbing, and I'm a hard worker. I'm like, great, your skill set is valued at about minimum wage currently.
Oh, and one of the things that pissed me off so much at Cactus is like clock in time was 6 o'clock. Okay,
Yep.
well the sun's not up till 7:30. I literally can't do any of my job until the sun is up. So if I'm gonna sit in the office and drink coffee, why don't I get another hour of sleep and I can sit at home and drink coffee and get the same amount of shit accomplished by 7:30?
I am absolutely I hate clock in and clock out times. And that is exactly because they say you need to be, let's say, saddle at the barn or whatever by 6:30. Yeah. Well, the wrong time of year, you need a flashlight at 6:30 in the morning. It's like, man, we can't catch horses for another 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And we can't trot out for at least another hour. And so, well, that's what time you need to be here. And why? Well, because, that's what time you need to be here. Well, I can't do anything. Well, that's what time you need to be here. Then you look at clock out times, well, you have to be here till 4 o'clock. Now, let's say it is the heat of August. Okay. It is morbidly hot. It's 119 degrees at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So, like a good cowboy did, you showed up at when the sun's up at 5 o'clock in the morning and it's August and you work. You get there, you get your crap done, and you're done by 12:30. And you're like, we can't do anything with the cattle. It's too hot. It's 119 degrees. You don't need to be in those cattle right now. You really don't. Being horseback doesn't benefit you, period. And they say, okay, but you need to sit here till 4 o'clock. Well, why? I got my stuff done early. We're done. Well,
yeah, and also we don't allow YouTube on the company internet. So
yeah, and it's like, and that's exactly it. That is because of that mentality of you're going to work hard. Damn productivity. Yeah. Productivity has nothing to do with it. We need a set amount of hours out of you.
Yeah.
And that is ridiculous. And I see it on ranches too. I literally had a guy I worked for say, I want a guy out of the house every day by 5:30, and I don't want him back in that house till 6 at night. So basically, what you could do in the heat of the summer is I'm going to burn a whole bunch of your fuel in this ranch pickup while the AC blows 9.5. And it's like, that tickles me to death if that's how you want to do it, but it's stupid. It's like, but that's stupid. It makes no damn sense. But by God, if you're, I want you to work hard. I don't care what you got done. I just want to know that you're out there working.
Yeah, I did a pasture up in northern Montana. I went around it, fixed fence, water gap. This is the famous story where I put the old cock and balls on a water gap. And But like I went through and I got told that I had to go back around it because I didn't use enough new T-posts. That's but
Well,
you didn't need them. I mean, I guess I can just go ahead and start pounding more T-posts in. I mean, if that's what you want, I mean, I'll do it, but that makes no sense. Like I thought I did a pretty goddamn good job at it. And I mean,
sure.
we didn't have any cows out later when we turned out later that spring. So but sure, yeah, I guess if that's what you want, I'll go back and put some more T-posts in.
Yeah, busy. And and I tell people too, because and sometimes obviously you got to do it, especially when there are prying eyes. But for the most part, if guys are getting their stuff done, busy work runs off hell. Making guys scared to be done runs off hell. If they live in constant fear that the owner or whoever is going to pull up and lose their mind because it's 4 o'clock and they're done, they're going to quit. They're going to leave because that's not a goal. A goal to say, I don't want you back in your house till 6. That's not a production goal. Does that make sense? Like that has nothing to do with bettering the ranch or getting your stuff done.
Yeah,
And,
but
and
also quitting at noon every day doesn't either. So
hey, I'm never gonna tell people, if you woke up at 6 and you got done what you think you need to have done by 8 in the morning, go to the house. That's not what I'm saying.
yeah,
that's not what you need to do. But if you're getting your stuff done, you shouldn't have guys so scared that they think they have to sweep the shop 5 times a day just so you won't yell at them. I guess that's a hard one to peddle to people too, because you don't want to feel like you're getting cheated out of wages. But remember too, good help isn't cheating you. Never punish a guy for doing a good job. It is not somebody who's good at their job. It's not their fault that they can accomplish what they need to in 8 hours, if that makes sense.
What I would love to see though, as a rancher, like in Matt's situation with the T-post, I've seen a lot of situations where we will tell a guy, hey, here's what you need to do, but they know better. Like you said earlier, cowboys, they know it all. They are experts and they've got it down. But the reality is, we've got generations of knowledge on what's going to happen when these cows hit this pasture. I'm telling you this because this is really how it's going to need to work. We've had guys, there's certain spots on the ranch that we don't ride. You get off and you lead your horse. And nope, they know better. They know better. And then the colt's busted open and now, my horse is hurt. Your saddle's busted up. Maybe I've got a workman's comp claim because you didn't listen. When we've been doing this for a long time. There are times that the owner knows better. So just ask. Just ask. Just say, hey, why are you doing it this way?
Yeah, and I think every party involved, owners and cowboys, or managers and cowboys, or managers and owners, or whoever, both parties should always entertain the notion that it's possible they're wrong.
That they're wrong. Yeah, that's a hard one to do.
Yeah.
What's that?
That's a hard one to do for everybody involved to be like, dude, I might be wrong.
I might be the worst in the world. I'm not the guy to give this advice.
I hear you.
It's the reality of it, because I've been on both sides of that card. I've been on the sides where I was wrong. I had to eat it, and man, was it bitter.
See, and that's when the autism kicks in for me, because I'll admit when I'm wrong after I've researched every single angle where I'm pretty sure I'm right. And then if all of those lead to the fact that I'm wrong, I'll go ahead and admit it. But it's gonna be a minute. I'm gonna research it.
Dude, I've been at where I'm halfway through an argument I have been vehement about, and it suddenly dawns on me that I misunderstood something. And it's the worst thing in the world. It's horrible. But and I'll say it for the owners too, because a lot of there's kind of an old mentality of I own them, so I'm right.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying y'all are like that either. I'm saying I've seen it.
Absolutely, we've been there.
Yep. And like I said, I have seen it. I own them, so I'm right. And there's the truth of it is, if you cut the checks, you might be right. And the fact that I cut your check, so by God, I'm right. It doesn't make you correct necessarily in your judgment, but you cut the check. But I do think having a dialogue with your help, like you said, just ask, we need it. Damn cats, don't do this. But having having a dialogue with your help, because there's been several times that I've been in a situation where everybody that is present can see this is dumb, excluding the guy giving the orders. Does that make sense? And I've been there too, where you do trot up and say, hey, I think if we tried it this way, these cattle are going to flow a lot better and we can have this done. We're kind of making a wreck. And he says, we've always done it this way. And typically the reply is, you've done it stupid your whole life. I don't know why you would do that. But I've also been in situations to where I went, how they just jigged this out is stupid. This isn't going to work. If we did it this way, it would work smoother. Then I had to eat it because it worked fine. I was like, well, normally I didn't admit it. Normally it's like, you're dumb. But the truth is, but like I said, but no, and I've been on both sides of that coin to where, opinions suck because, especially in a boss role, everybody's smarter than you. And if you're running a Brandon, the day workers are usually the worst. God, if I was running this outfit, we'd have been done an hour and a half ago. And they're just,
and your buddies are even worse than that.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's everybody is pretty. And also, here's something that a lot of guys are luxury to, that when you're running stuff, you're not, is hindsight. Because let's say, as an owner, you tell a guy, we're going to gather this pasture this way. I think it's going to flow pretty well. And then it's 3:00 in the afternoon and you have shit running everywhere. It has been an absolute wreck. The Cowboys' reply is, well, I'd have done it different and it'll went smoother. And so they have justified it in their mind that they are smarter than you. Because now, with hindsight, which you've also gained, but you were the asshole who jigged it out. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't jig it out, so they have the luxury of saying, I could have done it better. You jigged it out, and in the back of your mind, you're thinking, I could have done this better, but I'm the idiot who made the plan, so I got to eat it. There's a lot of nuance on every side of that thing that you're never going to kill from the Cowboy side of things, and there's also a lot of arrogance that you're never going to kill from the owner side of things. And I think finding some symbiosis in between that, having a dialogue with your Cowboys and saying, what do y'all think about this? Because odds are the Cowboys probably do have a good idea. Maybe not. Maybe what they say is stupid, not worth doing. But it's also possible they have a point. And establishing some of that dialogue and trusting your Cowboys to be good Cowboys and have some good ideas can really break up that kind of iron curtain that oftentimes separates Cowboys and managers, Cowboys and owners.
Yep.
No, it was a really long-winded way of saying have conversations with your help. But
Hey, sorry to interrupt, folks, but got some sponsors that help me keep this thing on the air, so I probably better tell you about them. So, first and foremost, we got High/Cattle. Profit margins in the cattle industry are tighter than ever, and you can't afford to leave premium sitting on the grid. Using Black Hereford bulls on your continental cattle will help you keep your calves efficient and in the black. High/Cattle, it's HI/Cattle Company, located in the heart of the Nebraska Sandhills, is committed to helping real cattlemen improve their herds. They don't choose fads or fall for the show ring gimmicks. At High/Cattle, they raise bulls with grit that know how to work. There's still a few bulls available for this year, and they offer free delivery. Videos and photos of all the bulls are on Facebook and their website, high/cattle.com. That's hi/cattle.com. HISLASH.com. Or you can give them a holler at 970-629-8807. Jen and Logan Hill are the owner-operators there. Great people, and yeah, they got a really nice herd, and just good operation, good people all the way around. Go check them out at hi/cattle.com. Next up, we got a help wanted. post, and this is Ranger Feeders out of Dighton, Kansas. They're looking for pin rider. Let me see. Like I said, Ranger Feeders looking for a pin rider. They're in Dighton, Kansas. They're offering competitive pay, paid vacation, a simple IRA with a 50% match, family medical on Blue Cross Blue Shield, and life insurance as well. Responsibilities include, but not limited to, checking for sick cattle, horseback or foot, doctoring cattle, weighing cattle for shipment, hauling back to the home pen, and washing water tanks. It's everybody is looking for help nowadays, and it seems like nobody really wants to work. So if you're looking for a job and anything about cowboying, or even if you don't and you're willing to work, head over give them a holler. It's 620-397 put that number on there wrong. It's 620-397-3411. Give them a holler if you're looking for some work. Next up, we've got Cardomax.com. Cardomax is it's a supplement company, and what do I tell you about Cardomax? They just make really good stuff. I drink this stuff every day. This is a energy intensifier, and I've also got immunity booster here, immune booster, and it's all natural ingredients, really good stuff, made owned and operated by a former Navy SEAL. Just good stuff, and it's all the stuff you like about energy drinks or Gatorade or any of that type of stuff without all the bullshit. It's all sugar free, it's all natural, and they use the least amount of ingredients as possible. And I really do drink that stuff every day, and it's good stuff. So head over to cardomax.com. Use the promo code MOVEYOURASS, MOVEYERASS, and you'll get 10% off your order. Next up, we got greensreserve.com. Greens Reserve is a all-natural hemp chew snuff. It's a tobacco alternative. Made at 100% hemp. It's all, I think it's organic. I can't remember if it's organic or not. But anyhow, it's there's no nicotine, no THC, and if you head over to greensreserve.com/shop, use the promo code MATTGR, MATTGR, you'll get $1 off a roll or $5 off a roll or $1 off a can, and I'll get a little kickback as well. So Greens Reserve, that's GREENES reserve.com/shop. Use the promo code MATTGR for $1 off a can, $5 off a roll. And if you don't like hearing all these ads, you can always go follow me or subscribe, I suppose. Not follow, subscribe. Anyhow, go to patreon.com/BurninDaylight, and you can subscribe there. Several different levels. You get different perks depending on where you sign up at, but all proceeds go back into the show. And we get some bonus content there as well. You get some extended interviews or just some straight up bonus content, and we try to do some cool stuff, make it worth your while. But anyway, mostly you're just helping me out. So also ad-free episodes when you head over there. So patreon.com/BurninDaylight, subscribe, and let's get back into the show. Yeah, but also not too many conversations, because left alone and all that shit.
And that's this is a tedious line, man. Keeping
Yeah.
Cowboys happy is a full-time job.
Yeah,
in
it
itself.
really is. It really is. We'll,
And you're
if,
not gonna.
and
The
if
other
there's
thing
nothing to
is,
bitch about, we'll find something.
well, then by God, there ain't shit going on. I'm so sick of being bored on this damn place. I can't see straight. That's just how it goes. And it really is. And that is a part you're not gonna beat, but good help is out there. That's the other thing. And I've had conversations with people about this previous to this, because good help is out there. It's not as rare as people think it is. But running your ranch in a way that good help wants to show up, that's an honor. And it is. And I don't mean that as an insult, but running your ranch in a way that good help wants to be present, that takes a lot of learning. I mean, it takes understanding working cowboys. It takes knowing what a good working cowboy is. And a good working cowboy is going to have some opinions. Mm-hmm. If you're looking for a guy who doesn't say anything and just says, okay, I'm going to go do it. Not that those guys don't exist that aren't good working cowboys, but a lot of good working cowboys aren't like that. Yeah. If you're wanting to hire guys with years of experience, they're going to want to kind of have a little bit of input on what those years of experience have told them. And I think it's really valuable to hear them out. Yeah. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking on the flip side, there's a lot of young working cowboys that listen to this podcast.
Yep.
So as they're thinking about how to get jobs, be real careful with the pictures and the videos you post of you doing real buckaroo-y shit.
Yeah.
I see a lot of guys that think they're going to get a job because they've got videos of them roping everything left and right and, thinking that they're on Yellowstone or whatever. And at the end of the day, that rancher's got to make money on those calves. And that means you've got to keep my calves calm and quiet. And I don't want to see a bunch of buckaroo shit.
And that's and like that's going to bring us into a whole new realm of the conversation. I'm glad that you brought up the general monotony of it. So let's discuss that too. Okay. You're right. I mean, good stockmanship and all that fun stuff that we all discuss, and we use a lot of the buzzwords and that sort of things because we kind of have to nowadays. A guy shouldn't be roping everything. You're absolutely right. I mean, if you're just roping shit for the sake of roping shit, that's not going to be a good thing.
Yeah.
I will say from personal experience, so I was taking care of a lot of high risk cattle outside, of course, that we were getting in. And there's not corrals. The option is you rope them and you doctor them.
Absolutely.
So there was a guy who worked there. And he loved throwing fancy shots. And that's fine. I play with a bunch of them too. And he loved it. The problem was he loved throwing them and had some sort of allergy to catching anything.
Yeah.
So this guy would sit in this herd and throw literally 7, 8, 9 of these shots of his Del Vientos and his backhands and stuff. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, I've literally knocked down, 3 or 4 head. Not that I'm super, I miss as much as I catch, but I was out there trying to get it done. There has been a bit of a misunderstanding, I think. And I've worked around buckaroos. I think are going to take offense to this and don't.
Oh, and they will. They are the most cantankerous motherfuckers
let me
on
say
earth.
This. 2 of the best hands, one of them is Rex Berg out in Nevada. And he's buckaroo. And bar none, one of the best cowboys, puncher, buckaroo, however you want to spin it, I've been around in my life, ever.
Yeah.
Made nice horses, could rope with anybody you lined up. Mark Westlake, guy I work with right now, he's a long liner, and he's don't care where you put him, he's good help and good at it and capable. But this kid was under the impression that throwing these soft shots and never stirring anything up was easier on these cattle. That's not inherently true. The less time you spend handling that cow is more conducive to low stress. You need to find, as a cowboy, stop thinking that, because you hear this all the time, it takes as long as it takes. That is bullshit. And let me tell you why. If we show up to brand a set of calves, let's say, right, and the temperature's rising rapidly, and by noon it's going to hit 98 degrees. The lowest stress you can give these calves, now you can't abuse them, but you need to get this shit done and get them back to mama and turned out quick.
Yep. Stop
dicking around. We cannot take all day to do this shit.
Yep.
There has been some sort of misunderstanding I've seen now, and I've seen a lot more of it really in the last couple of years than I ever have of, well, it's lower stress to take as long as it needs to take. Mm-hmm. That's not true. That is the furthest from the truth. If you show up to doctor it, the best thing you can do for it, get it caught as soft as you can. Not everything has to be a race. If you can catch it standing, catch it standing. If it ain't going your way, begging that son of a bitch into a corner for the next 3 hours is not the way to go about that. You need to get him roped, get him down, give him a shot, and get him up. Period.
It's the same way like with these Mexican cattle we've been getting in. Like they, you know how Mexican cattle show up. I mean, it's a 24-hour truck ride.
Sure,
after being quarantined for 2 weeks. I mean, they look like just warmed over dog shit, and they're flighty as hell. They're not particularly waspy, but they will run. Yep. And like you can stay back, give them a big old cushion, and bump them towards the gate, and take 5 minutes to take each one out. Or when they start trotting towards the gate, you can stay right on their hip and keep them on the fence, and just drive them out the gate. It's not the best looking way to handle cattle, but I guarantee you that's the quickest and most efficient way to get them out. Because if you give them one chance to look back, they're gonna, instead of turning into the fence, they're going to turn away from the fence, and you're going to have to chase them to the next fence and try to get them to turn into the fence and look at the gate, and you're going to run them instead of taking them out at a trot. So I'll sacrifice the walk to take them out at a trot so I don't have to chase them all over the pen at a lope.
Hey, man, and here where we're at, we rope a lot. And a lot of these corporate yards, well, they got rid of the ropes because of workers' comp. There's no way around it. But there's been this new wave of freaking clinicians who will tell you, in a feedlot, and like you've got in Mexicans, we get in these southeastern high-risk cattle.
Yep,
these
same
things
thing.
Are wilder. These things are wilder than shit. And if your plan is, this is a no lope, no rope yard, so we're going to walk these cattle out.
Fuck out of here with that.
Your dead pile will literally be named after a peak after a little bit.
Yeah.
We have to rope some shit. And from a corporate standpoint, you go, God dang, that's rough on cattle. And to which I tell people, the only thing rougher is me begging this one sick one out of the pen for the next 3 hours.
Yep.
And I guess we kind of, I don't know, I don't mean to stray too far from your point of, you got to be soft on my cattle. I know what you're saying is, don't be roughing up my livestock. I always tell people, though, too, you better really watch some of those and not you specifically. It's more of the Facebook clinicians I keep stumbling onto who haven't really cowboyed for a living. You know what I mean? They keep a halter on their horses 24/7. But you see these people, and I'm like, you've heard these clinicians say this stuff, and they've never worked for somewhere where you actually have to get this shit done for like an employment purpose. This isn't a Buck Brand, and no offense, I like Buck Brandon, and he does some good stuff, but this isn't a weekend clinic where it takes as long as it takes. It's like, man, we got shit to do.
Yeah,
and, if you're taking all day to do this, you will go down the road.
So I got to tie that back into the thing that Matt posted earlier, though.
Yeah.
Bragging on calf tables.
Yeah.
Because the reality is, if I've only got me and my husband and 2 kids, Matt, sometimes you just got to get this shit done.
Oh, no, I understand. I've used a calf table many a times. I've understood the purpose of it. Does not make me like it anymore. But
I just had to point out that it's the same concept.
Oh no, I understand.
And I can actually, I'll add you on Facebook after this. They've done the study, and Texas A&M did the study on stress levels in calves after taking before and after blood samples. And you saw that.
I read that one,
and basically time away from mother is probably the biggest thing. For people that use calf tables, especially, family outfits that, sorry about my cat here, folks. Everyone say hello to Turtle. But anyway, um, for little family outfits that are trying to get their stuff done, I don't resent it. I understand where you're coming
Yeah.
from. I will also tell you, tying back into that good help debate, it's going to be really tough if
Yeah.
you are looking for that good cowboy. And I don't mean this personally. I completely sympathize with why you do it.
100%
I'm not going to
agree.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm not going to berate you for why you do it. Y'all are just trying to make a living. I get it.
Yeah. Well, I will.
Go ahead, Matt.
I was gonna say, I will say on that end, and I've had this argument with people over the years too, and because I mean I ran so many calves through a table, and I it was worth it at the time. In a scenario it makes sense, but where you guys are not nowhere near the volume of cattle that I was dealing with Cactus, and when we were running the calf table, you're in a good spot of the world where you can really get some good ropers and guys that know how a branding is supposed to work. I would say give it a shot, and it could end up saving you more money in the long run, because if it's a well run Brandon with plenty of beer at the end and a good meal, people will show up just for that, and good help will show up for that.
I tend to agree with Matt. And I'm not insulting your competence either. I don't know. Have y'all drug calves before? Or y'all?
Oh yeah, no. So the way we've usually wound up working it is a few big brandings a year, where we do have the guys out and the beer and the meal, and then everybody else goes home, and we're back down to just the little family bunch, and that's when the calf table gets broke out. We work it both ways.
I gotcha. Yeah, that makes way more sense. Okay. I'm not opposed to just hotboxing cattle too, where you just reach up and grab a hind leg and flank them. I've done plenty of that. And it depends on your scenario, because there's no sense in dragging out your entire branding pot and hiring people or having people come over to brand 50 head.
Exactly.
It's not worth the trouble.
Yeah. And I this because y'all have been in the ranching industry now, so you already know this part, but this is kind of more general advice for anybody listening. Good neighbors are worth a fortune. Going and helping your neighbors is worth a fortune, because then your neighbors come and help you. Getting into and used to, at least where I'm from, all those ranches used to neighbors. So even the large ranches would send campmen over. They would help you. You're not seeing it as much now. I'm not particularly sure. Most of it is a lot of these ranch owners have gotten incredibly stingy. So let's say I go and help you for 2 days and we end up only needing you for a day. They feel like they just got rolled over the coals because they sent a guy for 2 days and we only got a day out of one of their guys. And they'll just have a freak out. And we all know, to be neighborly, you can't keep a track record like that. You can't be abused, of course, but good neighbors, I think, help a lot with some of that. How hard is it to get day workers together? A lot of times, if you have good neighbors that things are going well for, they know good day workers. That's something I would tell anybody, is having a good relationship with good neighbors. It's amazing how much time, money, and effort it can save you in the long run. In Oklahoma, we showed up. The ranch I went to work for had a terrible reputation, and I mean they would hire meth heads and just the dregs of society, pretty much, because nobody else would come to work for them. But they kind of basically they wanted out of that routine. They were surrounded by some really good neighbors, some really good cowboy neighbors who did stuff correct. And we got those guys to start coming, and day work didn't cost much. You might end up because they were just so concerned about, oh God, we're paying $150 a day. What's that going to cost? Well, time you got in good with the neighbors, you might hire a day worker, maybe two, but shit, all the neighbors wanted to come help you. They enjoyed being around you. They liked how you did stuff. Good neighbors are worth a fortune. And I think people that don't try to make good neighbors are costing themselves a fortune.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, and I hate to interject. I do have to say this about this podcast. It is so hard not to go on long form rants on these damn things. I don't know why, but it is just nearly impossible not to.
Well, I like it. I like being able to hear what people actually have to say, and not like sound bites. I like discussion, and this discussion's good. But so like I'm putting together this kind of like swap shop type show, and so like the thing is, like, if somebody, I want to be able to like have ranches advertise if they're looking for help, and I also want working guys to be like, hey, I'm gonna be leaving whenever, looking for work. So say a guy was to put in this, and Jen, I know you listen to this show, like what are you wanting to hear from a guy like looking for work, or a gal? There's gals out there too. So
I want references.
Hmm?
I got to have somebody I can call to know
Yeah.
that he's not a shithead. And, it's fine that you love Snowy River, the man from Snowy River, but don't tell me that you're going to slap leather. I need to know that you're going to keep calm around my cows.
Sure.
That's the
Yep.
biggest thing. I've got to have healthy calves to sell.
Yep.
Yeah, and and Jennifer, I feel like I've kind of commandeered some of this, and I shouldn't have done that. But
No, you're fine.
yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I apologize. As we've been kind of talking, I hear a lot of your points, and I do want to ask you too. And these are just kind of more fine points of the operation, I guess. What kind of cows are y'all running? You said y'all got seed stock and all that, but
Yep. So our seed stock are black Herefords and Angus.
oh, okay, gotcha. And I like the black Herefords, I really do. And I do. I think I don't see a lot of people running them. I think there's a lot. I think there's a big future in the black Herefords.
Yeah,
if people
here's
get
hoping.
serious about it. So whenever, as far as your ranch, are you guys? What's your grazing road? Are y'all doing a lot of rotational grazing, or kind of
Yeah,
kick them out and
we've
leave them
got a
alone?
pretty holistic management style.
Okay.
Heavy and moving.
Sure. And so, are you using hot wire, or are you just kind of
Right now, we're not.
Okay.
We've got some pastures that we need to break up into smaller ones just to do it better. But like I said, we've only been here 3 months, so we're still figuring out a lot of that.
And do y'all do any controlled burns, anything like that? Something you want a guy to have some experience with that side of things, or
not this year? It's too damn dry.
Sure,
I think we'd set the whole place up.
Yeah. And I'm just asking these questions kind of for anybody listening to kind of get a better feel. You seem really friendly. I mean, you seem like you probably you seem like you probably kind of know what you're looking for.
Royal bitch.
I was waiting for you to pipe in. I knew you weren't gonna let that stand.
No, I'm just kidding. No, we've known each other for a long time. Jen and Logan are good people, and man, this has been a really good conversation. I'm not trying to wind it down. Like, I'm just saying, overall, I've really enjoyed this. I think this is, I think a lot of folks will get some good use out of it. And I like I said, it was Jen's idea to have this, but I picked Zach because I feel like we think a lot along the same way, and where I'm more just kind of a feedlot guy. I've been on some ranches, and I've been on a bigger ranch, but like the last 10, 11 years, I've been feedlot and and some few day work deals where you've been on camp and wagon and stuff, and so I feel like we represent a pretty well-rounded segment of the cattle business, and and we've had some good bosses, some bad bosses. We've had some really good outfits that we work for, and some not so much. For all the younger guys that are looking to get into it, I wouldn't say steer clear of the corporate outfits, but I wouldn't say stay very long. I think there's some good, valuable experience to be had in a corporate setting, but At the end of the day, your smaller outfits are going to treat you way better, and particularly
Yeah.
if they're family owned.
Yeah. You know, it's for me, it's always a trade off on that side
Mhm.
of things because you love big country. You know, you love getting to be on those really large ranches. And, you know, a lot of times on the large ranches, you kind of run into less of kind of the farmerism type stuff. The problem with corporate ranches, and I tell people this all the time, bar none, some of the dumbest shit you will ever do is working
Mhm.
for people who are not making money from the cattle.
Yep.
And that doesn't make sense because you would think, well, they don't really give a shit how it's done. They're not worried about making money from the cattle. Working for some of these billionaires that are buying up these large ranches, and I've worked for a couple of really notable ones. It, for any young guys listening, it's worth the experience. Go work on those big ranches and enjoy it and have fun with the country and ride some nice horses or whatever they have to offer. Also, be aware you are going to do some of the doofiest shit in your life purely
Mhm.
because these guys had the money to buy a ranch and be able to afford to lose their ass.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
I think family outfits definitely, like Jennifer's a part of and running, they've got a little more skin in the game. They're going to be a little bit pickier at times about, you know, kind of how things are done because there's no way out of it. I mean, if this deal doesn't work out for you, you know, you might be, you know, interviewing at Sonic. You know, I mean, that's just the truth of it. This, you know, you don't have a few million to fall back on, I doubt. And, you know, if this doesn't work out, then oh well, you know, we'll do something else. So yeah, there's definitely a difference in management, but in that same notion, I tell people like a lot of my wife's family, they start talking about cowboys, and I'm like, there's cowboys aren't universal. You've got feedlot cowboys, wheat field cowboys, wagon cowboys, permit riders,
Mhm.
big outfit cowboys, small outfit cowboys. You've got, I mean, whatever they're doing in Florida, you know, you've got those
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. Whatever it
You,
is.
like I said, you've got
Swamp boat cowboys.
yeah, those guys, you know, like I said, and I mean, there's not a lot of there's crossover, but you know, and then even just to broaden that, buckaroos, cowpunchers, and then just
Mhm.
kind of the Kansas type. I kind of always say the Kansas Cowboys because yeah, Nebraska, you see a lot of crossover, so it's more of just kind of cowboys, not
Yeah.
necessarily adhering to a style. There's not a universal type of cowboy within, you know, a lot of times a 400-mile radius of each other.
Right. Right.
Um, yeah, where I grew up there in the Panhandle was definitely cowpuncher dominated, and you go into New Mexico and Arizona where it was also cowpuncher dominated, but you could still damn sure tell the difference. I mean, you know, everybody ever doing things. How that ties into what we were saying, I guess, if I could tie that back into it, you were kind of discussing the kind of help you were looking for. Um, you know, y'all are looking, I guess, for a unicorn in a lot of ways because y'all are wanting a guy who it sounds like can do a little bit of everything, but is a good cowboy and wants to take care of the cows. Have y'all ever considered, out of curiosity, Jennifer, and maybe it's not in your cards, I don't know, but um, have y'all ever considered trying to contract out some of the hay and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's definitely something we've thought about and
Yeah,
we'll continue to explore because
sure.
it's not our strong suit either.
Yeah, and
Yeah. I was just.
I'm. Go ahead,
You.
Matt.
I would say you got definitely got a leg up because you're coming into this deal as cattle people, having to farm instead of being farmers that have cattle.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%.
So I mean that bodes well for finding better help because people know that you're cattle people and you're trying to figure out the farm and shit. Like that, people notice that. I promise you there.
Now, and I am going to ask because you know I like the cowboy. My dad, who is kind of who I looked up to, he's won several awards for grazing management, and I'm pretty passionate about it as well. So I like to pick people's brains here. But probably what I enjoy more than cowboying is reclamation of native country. and making a really good range cow. Did y'all farm hay in Colorado
We
or
did
did you
not have
not?
the water to put up hay. So we
Sure.
bought all of our own hay, and that was another big part that we decided, it was time to, the way the market's going, to be able to
So
put some of our own.
yeah, I see where you're at in Nebraska, and I'm just kind of picking your brain on the management. I'm kind of deviating. So, and I'll just start out with an example, if that's all right. Like where that same ranch I showed up to in Oklahoma, they had, I don't know, they were averaging a lot of times 60 inches of rain a year. It was freakishly wet, and they had grass. I mean, they had grass stirrup high. A lot of it wasn't good grass. Those guys had overgrazed their country pretty bad, so a lot of the good native grasses had gone dormant and gone away. And they were feeding a freakish. They were feeding the type of hay you would expect to see in Montana. I mean, that amount of hay. And we came in and said, "Oh, what's up with the hay feeding?" And we didn't really understand it. They're in the Panhandle. A lot of those ranches will feed a protein supplement, a cake, and even like Dad, who manages a place, he's getting out of that. He's going to a zero input herd, which is tough. I mean, there's no way around it. If you're not managing your grass, it's done. You know what I mean? You can't do it. But we got out of that. We were out of the hay business in Oklahoma within a year with basically just kind of paying. Those guys weren't paying attention to their country and didn't give a shit because Granddaddy had farmed hay. So by God, we farm hay. I'm sure you've seen that shit. What direction are y'all kind of heading? Are you thinking? Because it seems like a lot of people this year are really panicking because there's no way about it, in my opinion. Inputs aren't going down. As we go into the future, the price of putting anything into a cow is going to go up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're now at a stage in the cow market where you can't afford to buy pounds on calves. And I see a lot of people, and this is an opinion. It doesn't make me right, but I enjoy picking people's brains about it. Whenever I hear people say, "Well, we're improving our herd," the first thing they talk about is weaning weight. That is the first thing they always bring up is breed up percentage and weaning weight. We want a higher weaning weight calf, a higher breed up. And so a lot of guys I'll ask and say, "Well, how are you? What are you thinking?" And well, we're putting some more money here. We're going to work on our hay program, or we're going to expand our bull season a little bit. And I can't help but think, man, every time I've heard people, and I'm not saying y'all are doing this, I just want both of y'all's opinions on this, because it's becoming relevant as everything's getting higher. I can't help but feel like everybody's running backwards. We're seeing a lot of people now who are going out of business trying to buy pounds off calves. You keep moving that marker for your cow of, she didn't breed up, but I bet instead of a 70-day bull season, if we went to a 90-day, we'd catch her. So we're going to hold her. I bet next year she comes in. Whereas it's always seemed like to me, if you, there's a lady up in Wyoming who did it, Ricky Crimmers. And anybody who's interested in this, go look at Ricky and see, or Nikki Crimmers. Go look at see what she's done with that northern herd of cows where she literally shut off the input. I'm not talking about low input. I mean, hit the switch, killed it. And look at the cow herd they put together, and it's impressive. And it really made me a believer that as we continue on with this cow market and we chase these premiums and everything, there's no way around it. A low input cow is probably going to be the best premium a guy can come by in the coming years. What do you guys think? I mean, what are you guys kind of thinking? What direction you're wanting to see people go with that?
I think that when you're talking cow calf, absolutely. I think when you're getting into registered seed stock cattle, there's just more babying that has to happen there because those are higher valued animals.
Sure.
There's also a lot of money to be made selling hay. There's a lot of stupid people with a lot of stupid horses.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, and they will pay stupid money for hay.
Oh, hey, and I let me preface that with I'm not cussing anybody for putting up hay or selling hay.
No, I get it.
It's a commodity. You know what I mean?
Well, we've actually, the way our setup is, about half of our farmland that we own, we are just, we've got tenant farmers on it, and they're growing corn, and then we graze those stalks. So it's all right back into that.
Yeah, free. I mean, that's cheap, free protein. I think guys who have those stocks are great for using them. It makes a lot more sense than feeding cake or alfalfa if you have it. You know what I mean? It makes a lot more sense.
I think.
What do you think, Matt?
I think with these, with inflation and just food costs being, I mean, just going to the grocery store the other day was like, good Jesus, man, it got bad. And I think there's going to be way less incentive to chase those premiums for like like your choice beef when you're at $10 a pound for a hamburger. Nobody's going to give a fuck if that's choice or select or prime. It's I think we're getting ready to see maybe like a pretty good drop off in beef consumption just because it's too damn expensive. And but I also think it's a huge opportunity for local direct, maybe not even so much direct to consumer, but just like local regional type beef stuff. But I also think that's gonna, like, I don't think certified Angus beef is gonna mean near as much here in the next 4 or 5 years. Like I just don't, I don't know.
Yeah.
The ag community is always like 50 years behind the times. So
Absolutely.
Even though certified Angus beef isn't going to mean shit here in a couple of years, I don't think. I may be wrong. That doesn't mean that the cattle business is going to stop pushing for black hide for another 50 years probably.
Well, and I was about to say that, and as we all know, standing here, and I explained this to my mother-in-law who doesn't know shit about the cow business. She was talking about, certified Angus beef. I was like, well, that means it was black in color for the most part, And like I said, that's all it means. But I do agree with what you said there in a big way. J.W. Lindley, who was a pretty renowned horse trainer, and this was in reference to horse genetics. And in my opinion, it's a lot easier to correct course. And you're seeing it, everyone makes fun of the little cutters that got so popular and everybody was breeding for them. And then if roping horses, a lot of those people, well, by God, we're breeding roping horses.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a hell of a lot easier, in my opinion, to swap genetic and whatever is hot in horses a lot of times and as cattle. I think a lot of these guys who have been chasing those types of premiums, it's going to take a long damn time to correct that if it goes out of vote. I mean, if you've been breeding for that Black Angus premium, let's say for 30 years, it's pretty damn hard to correct course. And I think premium chasers a lot of times are the guys who end up eating it. I'm more of the belief that if you're breeding a good cow and you're giving a product, just keep doing it because eventually that premium's going to roll back around to you. Just give it some time. You'll be the hot item again. I do get what you're saying though, in that I'm a little bit fearful that the worst thing we can do right now is make beef basically it's going to be a high-priced commodity, and that's
we don't want to make it a delicacy. Like it needs
if it's a delicacy, we're fucked.
It needs to be a staple.
It's got to be. Cheap consumption of beef is what is keeping the beef industry as is, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way around it. If it happens, it was pretty much enabled by the government because the government has enabled a monopoly. It has restricted inspectors for these plants that want to open up.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people all the time, if you're worried about it, you can blame the Packers. Sure, blame the big pack. We all know who they are. They are to blame. If you want to extend that blame to the source, in my opinion, the federal government is going to be absolutely responsible for it.
Mm-hmm.
They've enabled this. They have made sure there is no competition.
And the Packers have paid them well in kind.
Hey, man, exactly. The Packers were only doing what they could get away with,
right.
If that makes sense.
Yep.
And I mean, you worked for Cactus. I know Mark and Paul Engler. there's no way around it. If they could have figured it out, they would be the only one feeding cattle. They'd be it. You know, if
hell
they
yeah.
could have figured it out.
Oh yeah.
And, you know, they would only be doing what they were allowed to do. Same with the Packers. They're doing what they were allowed to do. This pretty much rests on the shoulders of the federal government, in my opinion.
Oh yeah. No, I agree, and then it behooves those Packers to go ahead and put some money in some pockets of certain senators and congressmen from Kansas and Iowa and Nebraska and Texas and all these beef states. Look at who their senators are and look who pays their for their campaigns. It's a very very shittily kept secret. I mean,
and you're right. And the problem is, and I think it lies solely with the authority we've given the government.
Right. I agree.
And it's like everything else. Inspections were a good thing when they started to make sure, people were maintaining a standard. So you didn't kill 3 million people because of, rotten beef or something.
Yeah.
It started out as an honest engine type thing. Now it's a power move. And if
it's the same way with labor unions too. They were started so guys weren't getting thrown into lard vats and served to the public. But now you got the teachers union that is refusing to go back to school unless everybody's masked up except for themselves, and they can teach your preschoolers trans binary theory or whatever.
Sure. And it's if Jennifer, let's say, wants to open a kill plant and she wants to compete. Let's say a certain somebody was nice enough to give me a donation of a few $100,000. That's a no-brainer. You're not getting a USDA inspector, period. You're out of business before you started.
Yeah.
What's that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it used to be something I bitched about a lot, and everybody did of, goddamn those Packers, they control everything. This is the first year that I have been legitimately concerned of the impact it's going to have.
Yeah.
And let me expand on this to kind of tell, I'm not going to say who I work for or anything, but, I work for what we're pretty much running now are what we call limajos. You don't call beef builders. They're essentially a dairy cross calf is all they are. We have the data on those calves from the time they're born because they come out of a dairy barn.
Yep.
So we literally know from day one when they hit the ground till the time they kill. We have this data on these calves. This is what the feedlots want. There's a couple of these big killers that are starting to buy up these calves. And if there is any way they can do it, that is what they want. They want that power. They want to own the calf from the time it hits the ground till the time they sell it. That is their end goal. Everybody needs to stop shitting themselves. The big killers, if you are a rancher, at some point, they want you out of business.
Yeah.
And it's really starting to come to fruition, and I've seen it. And what I write every day, which sounds shitty, but it's true. They're getting closer every day to putting you out of business if you're a producer.
Yeah. They bought up a ton of. I was just talking with a guy the other day. So all these little like 30,000-40,000 head feedlots in western Kansas, especially like Stanton County, Hamilton County, like they've been out of business for years. Bunch of dairymen from California and like the upper Midwest come in and bought them and turn them into their heifer yards. And I was like, how much fucking milk do we need? But you don't need all that much more milk. They're not. A lot of them. They're not putting. They're not breeding back to heifers. They're just breeding them to beef semen. With beef semen, and then you got these cookie cutter Angus looking cattle.
That's exactly. They're solid black. They look for the most. I mean, they lose a lot of the dairy trait these guys aren't wanting, and they literally own them from the time they hit the ground. it shouldn't scare me because everyone keeps telling me, oh, this is just the hot thing and it'll be out the door in another few years like all of it is. I would tell anybody who says that, I think you're off. I really think we're starting to see the first real big push in these guys owning these calves and only feeding essentially what they own. And at the time that happens, you're pretty much sitting on a product, unless you figure out a way to market, that is essentially worthless to them. They know now they've got enough carcass data on these calves. They can guess the yield on a load with frightening accuracy. They can guess the grade on a load of cattle with frightening accuracy. They know pretty much.
And those cattle grade really well too.
Freakishly well. I've never seen cattle grade that well.
It's wild.
They know it is. They know the conversion rate on these cattle to a T. They know pretty much within, I would say, about a week to 2 weeks deviation of when these cattle will be ready to ship. Everything that they want is really coming to fruition. And a lot of producers are, in the next 15 to 20 years, you're going to have to get creative on where you're selling your calves.
Yeah, which is that's why what they're doing there in North Platte is so freaking important. That with that sustainable beef, that's there's another one in Iowa. I forget what it's called, but like all of those little deals, like if you live in those states, you really got to be calling your elected representatives to be like, hey, push this shit through, because and it's National and JBS are both Brazilian owned. Like how that's possible? I mean, I'm as libertarian as anybody out there. How the fuck we allow foreigners to own our food supply is beyond me. Like that, I'm not for very many restrictions, but that's a pretty big one I'm in favor of.
Well, and the thing is, I'm not for putting them out of business. I'm more lean to the side that if it wasn't for corrupt government officials, it would have been a non-problem. It wouldn't have been a problem anymore.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It was all through shady shit through the government that allowed these foreign companies to buy them in the first place. And
it was shady shit in the government, and then it was basically, there's no competition clause. That wasn't necessary. Like we just said, you just make sure there's no competition. Simple enough.
Yeah. But this is why it's so ridiculous that so many of them are pushing for the government to step in and save this.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy. I agree.
Yeah.
Fucking insane. And Jennifer, since y'all are doing seed stock, y'all are selling genetics, I assume. That's one of your. So how are y'all what knowing some of that, because some of that information, how does that affect what y'all are doing going forward? I mean, what do you think? I mean, what changes?
So right now, frankly, I think we play it conservative for the next couple of years. I worry that we're getting into like the late 80s with bank interest rates real quick here. Things are going to get real wild. And I don't want to be the guy that's caught with a mortgage and all sorts of money on the line.
I think you're dead on there. Yeah.
It's going to be, interest rates are going to rise, and that's for a reason. They want people to stop spending money, because the more, and this shit with Russia is getting real. Like, if we got Saudi Arabia flirting with China and buying oil in the yuan, and Russia saying, fuck you, if you're not on our side, you're buying our oil in rubles. That's but it's gonna make the U.S. dollar worth just as little too.
Absolutely, but and the problem is, so I as I'm with y'all, I'm very libertarian. I am typically a fan of if it doesn't involve us, don't get involved.
Yeah.
this is part of the reason why I don't think Putin should be allowed to run roughshod over people. I'm conflicted on this one because they fuck with us as much as we fuck with them, and everybody better stop shitting themselves. We fuck with them a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you're convinced that America is an innocent bystander, I would say then don't use Google because your feelings will get hurt.
Yeah.
But this right here is a lot of the reason I am a big believer in if it doesn't involve you, don't get involved. We're going to fuck around and devalue our dollar now because, as it turns out, we may not be the best player in the game.
Right. Oh, and they're trying to convince us that, and I argued with Aaron about this earlier today about that Russia's really getting their ass kicked in, and so I sent him 2 Wikipedia pages. The second Battle of Fallujah.
Yep.
Just the second Battle of Fallujah was almost 2 months.
Yep.
The Battle of Ramadi was 8 months. 8 months it took us to secure one city in Iraq. 2 months to secure another city for the second time. They've only been in there for a month.
Yeah, the initial Germany invasion, even Poland, took several months. It wasn't like it happened overnight. I mean, this is just. I mean, we're just getting the party started.
And the Russians don't fight war like we do. They like where we went in with the shock and awe, and we rolled into Baghdad within a couple days. Yeah, that's not how they do things. They probably could have, but then they would have fought an insurgency for 20 years. Now they move slow, they smother it out, and they've pretty well taken the only remaining holdout is that Mariupol city in the south, and I'll be interested to see if he stops there. If he's like, hey, Crimea and the Donbass is ours, and he withdraws from the rest, we're gonna have to rethink about how bad of a guy Putin is if that's the case. But if he keeps going, then we're like, fuck, I don't know. I just don't know. What do you do?
And also, and once again, I am not a Putin defender. I think Putin is an evil piece of shit at his core. He is not a good dude. I know people are like, Putin isn't the bad guy here, and I don't get into that theory. I'm like, in my opinion, I'm like, no, he's a dick like the rest of them. He sucks, right? Like the rest of them. Putin sucks. He's not the hero here.
We slapped him one too many times, though, and that's
the Ukraine deal. We have to take, as Americans, you got to take a little credit for some of this. I mean, basically, we had a big part in ousting their president and essentially putting a Western-friendly president in his place. This isn't. And this is a tough one because if you do this, people are like, look at that. He's defending Russia. I'm not. I'm saying we've been playing a game of chess, and you can't get mad whenever we don't always end up taking the queen.
Well, right. When we shut off oil from Russia, but the rest of NATO does not. Yep. And therefore now we're on the verge of just collapsing the dollar, and that's going to trickle down through not just our economy but the fucking world economy. And then that's like you were saying that it's if it smells like shit and doesn't look like there's going to be any good winter, maybe we ought to stay the fuck out.
That's exactly where I lay. And even back home, not right now, we're kind of discussing the international policies of all of it, and repercussions. If no one's been paying attention, I encourage you to start looking back through the housing crisis and home loans they've been giving. And I say that because what we learned from 2008 was essentially jack shit. Banks are returning to some of their old ways because, number one, the amount of money made with that irresponsible behavior was freakish. I mean, freakish. Oh, yeah. And there were a few casualties, that whole deal, but for the most part, everybody came out clean. There are a lot of things happening domestically with the economy that are reflecting heavily in 2008. once I'm not an economist, everyone knows that. I'm just a dumb shit cowboy. I'm happy to be here, but you also don't have to be a genius to see we're on the verge of a pretty grandiose break, and not like a ha funny break. Everyone, I think, kind of has a comedic factor to it of like, oh yeah, another bust. Or I've even heard people romanticize it. I heard someone like, yep, you're gonna have to live like it's the 1800s. I'm like, fucking great, cholera's back, badass. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's like,
Yeah.
that's
Dysentery, just what I asked for.
exactly. I'm like, this isn't comedic and it's not good. And the amount of suffering that could loom on the horizon could be horrific. I mean horrific in a way. 2008 affected a lot of people. It affected everybody. I mean, it touched you in some way. There was another side of it to where the middle class has taken the brunt of it in the long run. In the short run, it wasn't felt that heavily. In the long run, it's really reared its head.
Mm-hmm.
We're a really good blow away from classism really establishing itself. I think the middle class being non-existent.
Yeah.
And if you want to see how countries really destabilize and run backwards, that's how it usually happens. The middle class is essentially wiped out. You have basically the well-off and the impoverished. And that's how, let's say, in France, people's heads start showing up on pikes, like that sort of shit.
So
Go ahead, man.
One thing I want to, like, if it rains in Oklahoma but not in California, are we gonna have like the Okie migration from the 30s, but like back to Oklahoma? Like
We're already seeing it. Well, and I mean,
Yeah.
for this is the first year that California lost a seat. They had less people come in than they had go out. You're already starting to see the absolute collapse of a lot of state-run governments purely for negligence. I live in Colorado. I love it here. And I'm not from here, but I'm proud of Colorado, at least rural Colorado, because they're kind of fighting for their lives in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah.
But there's no way around it. Colorado is, I mean, you're 20 years. I mean, I'm not 20. You're a few years out of bad legislation from this being an absolute fucking cesspit.
Yeah, Nevada's not far behind either.
Nope. Arizona.
And like Nevada is honestly, like I love Colorado. I mean, I got my Boogaloo Colorado flag, but like Nevada is the coolest fucking state in the union. Like rural Nevada is so fucking cool.
Mm-hmm.
But like Vegas drives everything, and it's just all that is East LA. So,
it just south of you, Arizona is what I really. I'm a Texan and I love Texas, but I consider Northern Arizona kind of home.
Yeah,
I love it down there. I've got a lot of friends. I spend a lot of time there. My wife's from Arizona. I love it. For all the good that I love about it, Arizona's about to be a decrepit shithole. I mean, they are well on their way to legislating themselves into brutal poverty.
Yep. Yeah.
Jennifer, I think you're probably lucky. No one wants to fucking live in Nebraska, so I think y'all are probably going to be okay.
Perfect.
You're doing great. You picked a good spot. Kansas is it's a shoe-in. You don't see people just flocking there.
Yeah, that's true. I left Kansas and I don't miss it, but I don't miss it. I'm not going back to Kansas. Fuck that.
Kansas is a really good place to be from. I'll put it that.
Right.
It means you're a well-rounded, well-grounded person who left, and you're probably quality people who live somewhere else.
Yep, exactly.
And I like the Panhandle of Texas, though it's home, and I love it. And I love a lot of the people there. I mean, I look at it the same way. It's just there's not much for me there anymore. It's not a cheap shot. I still love it. There's a lot of good cowboys in the Panhandle of Texas and good ranches and good people. It's just not somewhere I really want to be anymore.
I'm the same way with Southeast Colorado. I love it. It'll always be home. And I think the best sunrise is right off my back porch there at my dad's place. Sunrise, sunset. I mean, there's something about a prairie sunrise and sunset. It's pretty damn awesome. But yeah, there's not much there for me. I don't.
Yeah, which
My
like
my
right there where you
folks.
go
Yeah,
ahead. Sorry.
my folks don't own enough land. I couldn't run enough cattle to buy land and make the note on that shit. So it just there's not much there for me, and I hate it. But I'm just I'm another one of those that left Baca County and didn't come back.
Yeah, in which where you missed being an Okie by a slim margin, didn't you?
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Just a little.
Yeah.
Like running out of gas, you would have been an Okie boy.
I know my little sister's an Okie, and I'll always know that I'm better. You know.
There you go. A little air of superiority. Now, hey,
Yeah.
Jennifer, I didn't even ask you. You said y'all left Colorado, but are you a native to Colorado?
Yeah, so my husband was actually 5th generation on our place.
Oh man.
Yep.
How tough was? I mean, what made you guys pack up and leave after so long?
Yeah, about 70% of our ranch was BLM.
Yeah.
And we just, we thought about it for years, went back and forth, and just kind of came to the decision that there's no future in federal lands ranching. I don't know that my kids would even be granted permits to graze at all. And without grazing on the BLM, that ranch isn't worth shit. So.
And I think you're dead on. I've been telling this, and you see a lot more. You see it out west, but even more in northern states. I see a lot more northern guys that are pretty reliant on those federal permits, and you're a couple bad elections away to where you're out of business. I mean, and I think you guys made a right call, but God, how hard was that on your husband, would you say, finally having to say, we can't make it here anymore?
I think it was probably that. So my in-laws were still involved in the operation up to that point. And so selling was also buying them out was part of it. So it was, generations of heartache.
Yeah.
But we don't want to see it. Like the cycle has to end somewhere,
Yeah.
That's tough. I mean, what made you guys, after leaving Colorado, were you just up in the air as to where to go next, or what do you think?
So the craziest place we toyed around with was Uruguay. We were pretty semi-serious about Uruguay for a while.
No shit.
Yeah, and then decided to go ahead and stay stateside. We looked at Oklahoma, but at the end of the day, couldn't stomach saying I'm an Okie. And
dude, by the way, if you're an Okie listening to this podcast, fuck you. I don't care.
I never met an Okie I didn't like, but I have never met an Okie that I didn't like giving shit either. So
that's the truth. All my Okie buddies, I like you, but y'all, I'm a Texan, so I take more shit than anybody else. I don't want to hear it.
I just like I like talking shit to both of them, but the Okies get the brunt of it because they're right there in the middle between Colorado and Texas. So
I know they took that they are the tower in the Eiffel Tower, as you will.
Yeah. Yeah. So where else did you guys look besides Nebraska?
Yeah,
and
we
Oklahoma?
looked at Kansas for a while. We tried looking west, but we just were not going to get into any kind of leased ground situation.
Mm-mm.
We looked at the Dakotas. Well, the only thing up there that's not going to be federal lands, then you're getting to res land, and that's worse than BLM.
Oh yeah,
it's fun though. You could write a book.
Yeah. So Nebraska it was, and the taxes here are horrendous.
Kansas is the same way. Kansas is terrible.
As what kind of taxes are you paying?
Property taxes out here are outrageous. There's no ag exemption. So in Colorado, we had ag exemption.
Yeah.
They can't do that here because that would be everything,
I didn't know. See, I didn't know that, because you always hear, like, whenever people decide they're leaving, I actually know several people that have made it to Nebraska, and you never hear about that. I didn't know that there's no ag exemption.
No, and then there's also personal property tax. So like all of our equipment, really anything you buy that can be put on a depreciation schedule, you're paying personal property tax on that every year.
Yeah. So whenever you guys sold the Colorado ranch, do y'all only lease the Nebraska ranch now, or did y'all purchase?
Yep.
So how much more buying power did you have being able to sell that Colorado ranch? Basically, I guess what I'm asking is, was it worth it to liquidate that asset in Colorado for what it would buy you somewhere else, in your opinion?
Yeah, we were in big time hunting country.
Yep.
So that's where the value was there. You
Mhm.
know, we were able to capitalize on that while they're still hunting.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I get what you mean there. How are you guys adjusting? I mean, that's a pretty big, especially from describing where you were from. I like, besides driving through Northwest, like getting to Arizona, coming from Walden and North Park, of course, you crisscross through Utah and all that. But, I've been towards Pagosa Springs, which has been way south of y'all, but, Western Colorado, but that's pretty mountainous, beautiful country there, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's rugged.
Very, rough ass country,
Yeah.
I'm going to take a guess your ranch doesn't look like that now.
No, it's kind of amazing. We can clear a pasture in like half a day instead of 3 months. It's the wildest damn thing.
Is it, did sex appeal play into the account of where you bought at all, or was it purely, we got to go somewhere we can make it?
Yeah, it was, we got to go somewhere where our kids are going to have a chance.
Gotcha.
They want it.
If you could do it again, would you stick to your guns, or do you think you would do it different or look somewhere else, or are you pretty happy? What do you think?
I mean, I could write a book about the process of selling a ranch and what I would and wouldn't do differently, but
You should write a book.
Yeah.
But I definitely think, getting the hell out of Colorado and the situation we were looking at, we didn't have water. By the time we pulled out, we were having a hard time just watering our calves because all the wells are dry. There's no aquifers there anymore. Like it's bad.
Bad. Yeah. I guess to follow that up, you always hear everybody says now, you can't buy country and make a cow pay for it. I tend to lean towards that side.
Yeah.
Do you think let's say a guy starts out and he wants to start a ranch? Is it realistic anywhere anymore, since you did your ranch shopping around and y'all kind of looked at some different places? Is it ever going to be realistic for the generations coming up, in your opinion, to purchase property and make a cow pay for it?
Not if they're going to have a mortgage on it.
Yeah. And that time is long dead.
Yep.
And I tend to agree with you. And guys have tried it. Good buddies of mine have tried leasing, tried running somebody else's cattle. I mean, you try to do everything you can, but from what I can tell, the age of starting your own operation, barring a handout of some sort, it's not going to happen for you.
Yeah. Not unless you're willing to do it part-time and have a town job.
And that's it. I mean, have something to cover your ass, because the cows aren't going to cover the note. What do you think, Matt? Do you think going into the future, do you see the poor guy ending up with an empire?
It's gonna be tough. If you're gonna have an empire, I doubt it's gonna be in cattle. I mean, honestly, like my dream scenario is to make $1 billion so I can buy a herd of Holsteins to run on open range, and have Gilbert Gottfried narrate it. Like that's
a unique narrator, man.
I know. I've got a theory that the Holsteins will run off every mountain lion on that range because they'll chase after them.
Sure, purely
curiosity.
Purely licking them naked to freeze in the winter would be effective.
Right, and so I've got a theory, but I'm gonna need about $1 billion to make it happen. So podcasting it is for now, and
and I do wonder. Ranches, or at least the art of ranch buying, has become basically an activity of the elite.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you, just even in my lifetime, it has drastically affected large ranching culture. Kind of the old school big ranch cowboy, buckaroo, or cowpuncher. Where used to, there was a bit of a safe haven on a lot of those really large ranches for those type of guys. It's going away. And I feel like in a lot of ways, it has really hurt the culture of that sect of cowboy, because used to, like I said, if you had felonious warrants out of anywhere, I mean, those big ranches were a very convenient place for nobody to look for you. And you saw there were some rough characters, but a lot of the characters I think that made the West Western lived on those ranches. And a lot of those ranches won't hire that guy anymore. I mean, he doesn't really fit that corporate narrative they're establishing. And I can see it growing up around large ranches and big ranch country. It is making a rather rapid shift in the culture guys like Turner, Malone, some of those people that have bought up these massive swaths of land that aren't classical ranch people. It's weird. Even the big ranch cowpuncher that people associated with or buckaroo, their time is extremely limited on this earth, I think, which breaks my heart personally, because I mean, that is what I definitely identified with and adhered to. And man, it's going the way of the Comanche. I mean, there's no more room, and it really is. It's super sad to me because it's just a reflection of the times. But I do. Whenever I get to pondering, I just wonder how much time any of us have left at times, you know?
Well, I always think, and I think we probably ought to wrap it up here pretty quick. I know it's getting pretty late for you guys over there. But I think eventually these big companies, like, well, they'll buy this land and whatnot. They're gonna find out that they can't run it efficiently. Like Koch Industries bought a shitload of feedlots back in the 80s and 90s.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think they own a single one of them anymore. Koch Industries is still doing just fine.
They are, and yeah, they own the Montana division, Kansas division, and the division there in the Panhandle of Texas, the Matador. You know, and they have been liquidated. I mean, they no longer own them.
Yeah, and Koch Industries is doing just fine, but they those big companies, they do shit efficiently. That's how they got to where they are. Mm-hmm. And when they figure out they can't run a ranch efficiently, they'll unless it's like, you know, here in Nevada, a lot of the mines own the big ranches because they need the water. But a lot of other places, if it's, you know, like the 4.6s, when they decide that Westons are no longer in, I wouldn't be surprised to see that ranch sell again when it's no longer useful as in the film industry. And
good point.
It's like I mean, that feedlot I worked there in Kansas, it was a Koch Industries yard, and who bought it? Cactus Nose feeder cattle. Like they were not an oil company pretending to be cowboys. No, they were cattle feeders. That's what they did. And I think maybe it's another big ranch that buys some of these other ranches, but I eventually you got to have cattlemen running cattle, and it's I don't know where it goes, but I think eventually I'm hoping for the days of like Charlie Goodnight and Richard King, where, you know, everybody goes to war for a few years and cattle just run wild, and then we can just come back and start gathering mavericks, you know?
God, that's labor intensive.
I know, but hey, you want to build an empire. That's a good way to do it. So
no, the Forest Service just shoots them all now from their helicopter. There won't be any mavericks left to gather.
Yeah, I know.
I will now, and I know we got to wrap this up. I will say on that, as we, you know, you kind of made the point of, you know, basically these big ranches losing interest. What I kind of fear is at some point too, there's no way around it. A lot of these rich guys don't have any interest in cattle. What I start to worry more about is not who owns them as much as those ranches coming out of production in the future. Because you have, even let's say a corporation buys them, let's say a Sierra Club type corporation. What my concern, I guess, isn't necessarily the big ranches being mismanaged into the ground. It's exactly what you said. As interest falters, it's the wrong people buying them and taking them out of production.
Yeah.
And like you said, Jennifer, the hunting is what drove the interest on y'all's sold ranch. It wasn't what the cattle could do. And a lot of those hunting guys have they not only do they not have interest in cattle, they don't want the cattle.
Yeah.
And a lot of times as those ranches come out of production, they don't go back into production. I mean, it's not like something that they're going to lose interest, because a lot of times they're extremists. Extremists don't lose interest.
Yeah. Well, once again, if we're distracted by a war with Russia, the BLM's not going to be too concerned about, or whoever is going to, they're not going to be real concerned about patrolling fences and keeping cattle off. So, once again, we're heading back to Charlie Goodnight and Richard, Richard King, and I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, I'll see you there, wherever you want to meet.
Perfect. Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
It's probably not Nebraska, but I'll meet you anywhere else.
Yeah. We'll have to start with the western U.S. where the ranchers are armed and they'll be friendly to the cause. So.
Yeah, sounds great. Hey, Jennifer, and I wanted to say too before we wrap it up, I'm sorry if I didn't give any good advice or play devil's advocate, but
you absolutely did.
I hope you guys, I hope in going down the road, you guys kind of have a little bit better luck with that side of things. I promise you, good help is out there and it's available. It's just kind of finding, it's finding the guy that works for that job, I guess, is, kind of the big secret. I promise you he's out there. Don't get dejected and say, fuck it, we're hiring nothing but Peruvians, or not that there's anything wrong with Peruvians or whatever, but there is a good guy out there who wants to do a good job for you. Just don't get disheartened. And, not everybody wants to, smoke weed and slap leather and that kind of shit. So.
Exactly. No, I appreciate the conversation, guys. This was fun. It was a long one, but I think it was good.
Productive.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt, thanks for having me on again, man. And like I said, I always enjoy the opportunity to spew my bullshit to a wider audience than what I normally do.
Man. I enjoy it. I like these conversations. These are some of my favorite ones. Just we have a general outline of where we're going, but then it goes off the rails, and that's what makes it fun. And I enjoy it. So thank you guys once again, and thanks everybody else for tuning in. And move your ass. We're burning daylight.
Your eyes up in the morning beneath the stars so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horses kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. We'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. In the saddle till the job's done right. Burning daylight. Well, life is just a gather, and you won't catch 'em all. But when you ride through the gate, make sure you sit up tall. I can see the horizon, it's looking pretty bright. Well, get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. In the saddle till the job's done right.